I personally consider myself an agnostic atheist. I'm an atheist because I'm an agnostic. I don't know, so I don't believe.
Okay.
But I'm open to.
So when you say you don't know, what will convince you there is a God? Do you have any criteria in mind?
Yeah, it's a God.
Is there any criteria that you have that you say, okay, if this and this satisfy?
I have a hard time to be convinced that the interpretation of God as both almighty and like all good is true in our world. I can be convinced. I don't know how, but I think that if someone logically will prove to me of the proof of a higher consciousness, something like that, I may believe it. I'm totally open to the interpretation of God as the unmovable mover, the starter of all things, but not as a consciousness. When you think of it of God as a consciousness, it's something that is thinking and intervening with the world.
Who says God is just consciousness?
Not just consciousness, but has a consciousness. If you think about something very, very unspecific, like the Force in Star Wars that maybe started everything and it's not really intervening in the world, that's imperfectly logical to me.
No, but that's Hinduism. That's different.
Hinduism or Daism, very
so in a deistic understanding.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with deistic understanding. But when you think about revelation, about something like the God of Abraham,
why can't God intervene in His creation? Why can't God send like Moses? Yeah,
I don't think He can't. I just think there is no proof of that.
No, but that's what I'm asking. What kind of proof are you seeking? Like, do you want God to stand in front of you and say, "I'm God"? Is that the kind of proof you're looking for?
Actually, if God will stand in proof to me and says He's God, the first thing I will do, I will call a psychological hospital to check with myself for mental disease. Not because I think every people who sees God is mental disease. Absolutely not.
To be honest, you won't have time to check into the hospital because once you see God, you're dead.
Yeah, probably. I might regret it very much. Everything I say, you right when I'm dead.
The whole idea, in fact, God is being merciful to you. By not revealing Himself to you, because you I'm telling you why. Because you as a fragile human being will not be able to withstand even His creation like the sun. You won't be able to look at the sun directly even. Yes, can you? Then how can you? Well, you can't really, unless you're wearing your glasses or something. You know. What I'm saying is that God is much more powerful than you can imagine. Than even His creation, which you can't withstand. The force, the power of that. Yeah.
I don't believe in God because I can see proof. What is your proof?
Why you ran away? Come here. Help your brother out.
Why do you believe in God? Even one good reason.
Yeah. So look. Okay. Look. The reason I believe.
That's where I know. Which religion are you?
I'm a Muslim. Okay. So.
No. We're Jewish, and we don't have no problem with Muslim. I see like.
Well, you're Jewish by race, not by religion.
Yeah, by race, but not by religion.
Not by religion. Sure. So you're not following Judaism because you deny God, you deny His existence. Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Where did the universe come from if there is no God?
I will tell you.
Go on.
I don't know, and no one knows. No one knows what happened after death, and no one knows where the universe comes from.
Okay.
And we don't need to.
When you say
when
you say no one knows, have you researched 8 billion people?
No, I think that you can't know. We can't know.
Why not?
Where the universe came from.
If you're saying
because this happened 30 billion years ago. Like how many billion years ago it came from?
Well, they say the universe is 13.8 billion years.
Yeah, okay. I don't think none of us been there, and I don't know if I don't think that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a physicist, but science has achieved the point that we know what happened there. No one knows.
No, but look,
we can just say we don't know.
We can understand by inference. Okay, so if I were to ask you that this cup of coffee just came into existence by itself.
Of course, but it's
would you believe me?
Of course, it's the classic clockwork on the beach argument.
Yeah.
Of course, I know I have a preconceived knowledge that a clock or a cup it's made by humans.
Yes.
But the same thing shouldn't be true about the universe.
Why not? By inference.
I know. Someone that is made by human is not going out of nature.
No. What I'm saying is that this cup is less complex than you, and you are less complex than the universe. If something like you or the universe cannot come by itself, okay, then it only poses the question, where did it come from? And when you say I don't know, that's not really an answer. You're pleading to ignorance. So when you say I don't know something, you cannot say someone else is wrong, because you have already conceded that you are ignorant of the knowledge of what I'm asking you about.
Okay, so I have...
Do you understand what I said?
Yeah, I understand what you said. So I have two things to say. I think, but when you're saying that the universe is really complex, it couldn't come out of nothing, I just think you are passing the buck. I just think that...
No, I'm not saying it came from nothing.
No.
Are you saying that?
No, I'm saying it might, I don't know.
No, when you say out of nothing, is that logical?
I don't know.
No, but just try to understand. Look, you have studied.
I've studied.
You've been to college, university, wherever. You studied logic. Logically, is it possible for something which doesn't even exist, like nothing?
I don't know if how it came from.
Let me finish the question before you answer.
You said that when I say it's something, what you said about me telling you I know now.
I'm saying nothing doesn't even exist.
Oh, but when I say I don't know, I think that you don't know either.
No, but when you say I don't know, you're pleading to ignorance. That's not really an answer.
No,
it's not really a response.
You're saying that none of us truly knows. But at least I think that you assume you have an answer. You assume that...
I'm saying logically. Look, right now I'm not going to use the term God even. Okay, because I know you don't believe in it. I'm asking you logically if something. Hold on, listen. If something that doesn't even exist.
Okay.
Yeah, like nothing. Do you think nothing exists?
Nothing exists?
Does it exist?
Like nothingness? Like if you define nothingness as a place when you have no atoms, probably yes, some scientists...
No, nothing cannot be a place because even space is something.
If you... it's a matter of definition. It's like...
Okay, I'll give you the definition of nothing.
Okay.
Nothing is... Yes, the absence of everything and anything, even things you can imagine. So it's the absence of everything.
I don't know if there is such a thing as nothing.
Exactly my point.
Maybe there isn't.
Exactly my point. So I'm saying...
I have a question about you.
No, wait. So nothing is a concept. It doesn't exist. It is for mathematicians. It's for us to understand logically. It's for understand linguistically. Concepts, Okay, so nothing is represented by zero.
Okay.
So when I say there is nothing in my hand, will you think there is something? No, you wouldn't.
Of course not.
Okay, because the whole idea of nothing is to show that it's an emptiness. Even emptiness requires space. You know what I mean? So it's even devoid of space, or matter, or energy, or everything else. So what I'm saying is that nothing cannot bring about something.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah, go on.
You said that God, some kind of a higher being must have created something because it couldn't come out of nothing.
But I'm not using even God right now.
No, not God.
I'm using inference right now.
Inference.
Yeah.
But I could. So
using inference, you can come to the conclusion.
So it says that everything must have come from something. Okay, it's not God. Something. Okay. Let's define it like that.
What is that something? That is the question.
Something. You can say the same thing about that something. If that something is, let's say, God, we can ask, where does God come from?
Good question. Actually, that's a question many people ask.
Where does God come from?
Okay, so...
And God must be immensely more complex than the universe because He's created the universe.
Yeah, so you cannot...
So who's created God? It's an endless.
First and foremost, you need to understand that the term God, by definition, is someone who is self-sufficient and self-existent.
Couldn't the universe be self-existent?
No. The universe, because everything that begins to exist requires a cause. Did the universe begin to exist?
The unmovable, Aristotle, unmovable mover, right? What's the argument? But I think you assume...
I'm saying everything that begins to exist must have a cause. The universe began to exist, as the scientists say, just under 14 billion years ago. Okay, so it had a beginning. Yes, the universe had a beginning.
You said a beginning, but before that there was maybe a very dense energy. I don't know what came before the Big Bang.
No, but I'm not even saying, I'm not starting my point at Big Bang. Let's say even if we start at the singularity, even the singularity, which can be as dense as possible, but no one can say it came from nothing.
But
What if the singularity never happened?
If it never happened, then you'll have to speak to the scientists. By the way, I'm not putting my faith in the singularity because he comes from an agnostic atheist background. So, and he mentioned the Big Bang, he mentioned scientists, he mentioned the age of the universe. All that implies that the universe had a beginning. That's all I'm saying. And everything that has a beginning requires a cause.
But the definition of science of a beginning is a little bit different. Okay, think of like a black hole.
Even black holes have beginnings.
Like over time, mass, and I'm not a physicist, so
Regardless, even black holes have beginnings.
My understanding of the Big Bang is that mass that is so and energy that is so condensed have some influence over time in our reality. Okay, like black holes. When you are coming close to a black hole, which is mass, which is very immensely condensed, time itself begins to change how it works. So
it doesn't matter. The thing is, all those things you just described, they have a beginning.
You say a beginning, it's not like that.
Does it Big Bang doesn't imply some kind of matter from nothing. So you're saying everything came from a tiny spot, and everything in the universe comes from that, which does imply a sort of godlike intervention. That's one of the reasons I don't accept Big Bang.
I don't think if you might accept that there happened a Big Bang. Something you might have, but you maybe know about someday. Science might have come before, maybe Big Bang. I assume not, because I'm not a scientist. I'm just not a scientist.
Why do you trust science?
Why do I trust science? Because I look at my phone and I see it's working. It's working, and I know it's the work of engineering. It's engineering. It's based on science, on electricity, on years and years of science. Every engineering.
Look, all I'm saying, I'm not even putting God in the equation. All I'm saying is that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Okay? And this cause.
But we can say, well, even if I accept your argument, we as humans can say nothing about this cause. We can say nothing.
What do you mean you can't say nothing?
Why you can say nothing?
Why would you say
Like something before our universe began?
a cause cannot be nothing? Because nothing really, as we discussed, doesn't exist.
No, first of all,
a cause has to be something.
You look at your human interpretation of...
My friend, I'm a human, that's the only way I can interpret.
Yeah,
I don't know about you.
Maybe I'm an alien, I don't know.
You might be an alien, then you're from a different planet.
Maybe I'm an illegal alien, I don't know.
Say again?
Maybe you can empathise with a cat or a dog. Maybe you have similarities with some of those creatures.
Well, he's neither a cat nor a dog. That we can all...
The implication is what you're saying, I think you're right, is if your assumption, you're saying I can't tell about that time, then it would also imply that you can't tell anything about any time before man.
Anytime before
if you're assuming that...
No, he said as a human understanding.
It's a bit different. Maybe we can say someday something about that time before the universe itself began, but only through physics. Me normally, using my logic, I will try not to assume some things about that time of the creation. It's not my work. It's the work of physicists. And we learn like in quantum physics, an atom can be in two places at once. In which way logically is that correct?
Simultaneously then turn around and say, it's not my place to question the existence of God.
Yeah.
When I'm an atheist. But given your logic, it would also follow that you could turn around and say, well, yeah, but if they're the religious people, they've been around forever.
I don't say
the world was
don't
made.
question the Big Bang.
No, but if you're going to use...
I'm happy but people question the Big Bang. But personally, because I'm not a physicist, because I have no time to get so involved in this question in a manner which I will fully understand.
If you're going to use science as your basis, then you need to understand that science has limits. It only deals with the physical world. It doesn't have nothing to do with the metaphysical elements.
Don't you think that human logic?
Huh?
It might do.
Yeah, but then
it might be a metaphysical argument.
that's not the naturalistic science we are talking about then. It might be philosophy, it might be something else.
These are philosophical guesses.
Yeah, I know, but he mentioned physics. He mentioned physics. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So what I'm saying is that, look, there are things which are metaphysical. For example, your consciousness.
I don't think it's metaphysical.
Have you seen it in the lab? Have you seen your consciousness in the lab?
In the lab, no. But
how can you say it's not metaphysical? Is it physical? What material is it made of? What material is it made of?
It's doesn't need to be made out of one material. Well, our consciousness is it's a bunch of things. It's our hormones in our brain. It's electric.
All those things are material. Your consciousness is not.
Which is how you experience it. You say I.
Which is subjective. So your experiences.
You say I experience my consciousness as a living continuous thing. It doesn't mean your consciousness is actually that. This is just your experience. You experience your.
No, but your experience are subjective. So scientifically that wouldn't be accepted. In science they require empirical evidence.
No, but
Hear me out. So empirical evidence it doesn't have to be how I feel or how I know or how I think. For science that is irrelevant. It's just your opinion, your subjective understanding of the world. What science, the naturalistic science that we know of, which deals with observations, experimentation, it deals with measurements, it deals with computation. All these things require empirical evidence.
Of course.
If I were to ask you, do you have empirical evidence for your consciousness? What would you say?
For my consciousness?
Yeah.
I have empirical evidence. For my own consciousness? Well, my personal opinion, it's very philosophical, obviously.
Personal opinion, you see, you said it.
Is that
I asked for empirical evidence, not personal opinion.
My empirical evidence that I exist, I think therefore I am.
That's subjective, like I said. Everything that you just said is subjective.
If you said that, then basically everything is subjective.
No.
If you look at
that's absolutely false. Everything is not subjective. Like if I put you and
all our experiences.
No, I'll tell you how it is not.
How it is not.
Let's say I'll give you an experiment. Let's say if I put you and your brother in a room.
Right.
Yes? And I ask you how was the temperature?
How was the temperature?
Yes.
But our experience of the temperature is subjective.
Thank you, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
So your experience is subjective, his experience is subjective. How can I prove to someone objectively what the temperature is in that room? Come on, you know it. How will I prove it objectively to anyone and everyone what the exact temperature of the room is?
Temperature meter.
Thermometer. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is that objective?
Is that objective?
The temperature derived using
definition.
Hold on. Come on. Let's not get. Let's not get too technical about it.
Okay.
A thermometer has a particular job. What is the task of a thermometer? To measure the temperature.
Of course.
The temperature that is derived using a thermometer, is that objectively acceptable by everyone or not?
I mean, of course.
Good. So your subjective experience against the thermostat's objective evidence is not the same. Because you can have a different temperature reading than him.
If you break it down enough, even the temperature is like you seeing the number on the thermometer, you're seeing it's that subjective. If you break it down
Wait. Come on. You're just going OTT now. Are you saying that you have a problem with your vision?
No.
So wait. How can you just agreed with me that the temperature reading is objective? Once it is objective,
no, of course there is that. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to get too over the top about it, then we can misinterpret anything and everything. And I think that's the reason you said nothing is objective. Am I right?
Why? What?
Once again, is there anything in the world that is objective for you?
That is objective for me?
Objectively true.
Objectively true?
Yes.
It depends how philosophical we want to get about it.
Oh, don't get too philosophical about everything.
If you want to get philosophical,
your reality, do you agree?
Yes, of course.
Good. So do you experience the reality that you're in now?
Do I experience reality? Of course.
Okay. So what you're seeing, the fact that you're speaking to me, the fact that your brother is listening to us, is that real or unreal?
It is real.
Good.
But I can be woken up every.
You're doing it
moment.
again. You're doing it again.
Okay. No, I'm just saying. But you're true.
You know when you go from actual reality to fiction, yeah, then there is some medical issue with you, because you cannot differentiate between the reality, the real world, versus the fictional world or the imaginary world. Okay. See what I mean? And there are good doctors out there. So if you have such an issue, which I doubt you have, because I think you're doing it for the sake of argument.
No, okay.
Okay, so once again,
I want to hear the
all I'm saying is that there are things which are objectively true. For example, if I were to ask you, what is the shape of the Earth?
Of course it's wrong.
What is it?
Flat. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
I don't know. Is he kidding?
No, I'm kidding.
Because I really have to ask your brother at this point.
Okay. Let's say.
So that's what I'm saying. There are certain things which we'll all agree upon, which to be objectively true. So in reality, there is certain things which are objectively true.
Okay.
Now, similarly, the fact that the universe exists, we cannot deny.
Okay, yes.
The fact that you exist, the fact that the people listening here exist, you cannot deny that.
Okay.
Unless and until there's something wrong up there.
Okay.
Okay. All I'm saying is that if something exists, then it couldn't have come by itself.
You said that
God.
you said that God, you assume some characteristics about God, about how somehow the universe couldn't come for himself, but God by definition could have come for himself.
I believe
Why you could
always existed.
Okay, so
why you
because,
can say that about the universe?
like I
itself?
said, right now I'm not even using God in the equation. I'm just using
No.
using inference so far. The fact that you have to first understand even about the physical reality. You have to understand about the real world. Before you even understand the metaphysical world, it's quite crucial right now. Because if you're going to deny the physical world itself,
No, I don't
then there is a bigger problem
No, I'm
than
not
you
gonna-
believing in God even.
I know in the physical world, but I can see why you assume some characteristics about God, like that he's always existed, or something like that. And I can see why it's a problem to assume the same characteristics about the universe itself.
Okay, the universe, you don't think the universe is God, right?
The
So you
universe
cannot
is
assume
God.
the same thing about God as a
Some
universe.
people do think that. Spinoza, pantheistics, some people do believe that.
Yeah, but if they are pantheists, then they believe even this tripod is God. Yeah? Do you believe that?
Depends what definition. If your definition of God,
Yeah, it's what?
it's not like some kind of like an Abrahamic God, but some kind
I'm asking based on your definition. Do you think that tripod is
my
God?
definition.
Is that tripod God?
No. Okay.
Is it God or not?
No.
Okay, so why bringing people in who actually believe the tripod is God? Let's deal with what you
love
believe
you.
rather than, look, we'll have subjective understanding around the world from, we got 7 billion, 8 billion people, they will all have their own understanding. So
course.
what I want to know is based on your understanding, without you going over the top, without you rejecting the reality,
Okay.
with you using logic, because that's the basic thing we can rely upon, our logic, our intellect, yes? And our logic and our intellect say that that tripod is not God.
Let's look at the argument that that something couldn't come for nothing, so it should come from God. First of all, we look at the word nothing, and we assume some definition about that, which we don't actually know are true. We don't know what came before.
What definition of what?
Of nothing, because we don't know what came before our definition
Okay,
of
so
the universe.
are you saying you don't know the definition of nothing, or do you know the definition?
No. I say that nothing, what we think that came before something, before the universe, it's not necessarily what we assume by your definition of what nothing is.
So what's your definition of nothing?
I don't know.
There we go again.
The view is that the universe is past eternity, which I believe.
Well, what is that?
We understand the Big Bang, yeah, who occurred 13 billion years ago, but it wasn't necessarily the beginning. I believe in a bouncing cosmology. There's a lot of research being done by famous scientists now to suggest that the universe is past eternity, it's always going through cycles.
If there is any scientist who say that the universe existed in the past eternity, then bring evidence.
No, I actually heard about it.
Because if you're just going to make that claim, that would be pseudoscience. It's not science.
No.
Pseudoscience. So
No,
if you're going to
but-
start believing in pseudoscience, that's up to you.
But that's not
Theoretical physics.
It's not physics.
It is theoretical physics.
It's not theoretical
Science,
physics.
the professor of physics that can't prove
Theoretically
it,
physics.
has a model saying exactly that.
No, you can have, look, you can have mathematical models for things which are illogical sometimes. Things which cannot be existing.
even if everything is said, it's theoretical. It's for me, it's look the same probability as God. Maybe the
No,
universe
it's not.
technically
It's not.
Theories are initially
It's not.
No, of course,
Because
even if I don't know nothing,
For example, this electric fields and magnetic fields was proposed by
in theory, I can have nothing as a zero. Okay, so I can actually write zero and denote that as nothing. But in reality, if I ask you, show me nothing. Can you show me? Go on.
okay.
Any theoretical physicists
Okay,
here?
no,
Because they
let's-
can't answer that
let's
question
think
about
about
zero.
argument, because
Zero is a representation of nothing. It's not really such a thing. My point is, such a thing doesn't exist in reality. The things like infinity.
Okay.
Infinity in reality is a concept similar to zero, or sorry, nothing. Both of these are concepts for us to understand linguistically, for us to think and imagine things, for us to have a communication. But when I ask you in reality, show me what is nothing, you will say, in fact, everything you point to, I can guarantee that is not nothing.
Okay, but let's look at like the cyclical universe, just like
That's pseudoscience, cyclical universe. Cyclical universe is pseudoscience.
No.
Should I tell you why? Should I tell you why?
No, but that's
Okay, you know that's the reason I don't want to involve him because he's very rude.
Okay, I just want to look at the
Stop interjecting. Let the boy talk.
Okay. The boy is scary.
Young man.
Young man. Okay, I will take it. Let's just look at it like as an example, okay?
Yeah.
You said that the universe couldn't come from nothing, so it must have come from something, and then you associate that something with certain characteristic, like it's always existing, and that's your way of thinking. And I have no proof of that right now, because right now. And
Good.
some people might say.
So you have already
Wait
already answered the question for me.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
And some people might say to me, the universe may be cyclical, okay? So the universe may be cyclical, and before the Big Bang came another universe, and before that another universe. And I say, for my now,
like I said,
so what? My opinion is gonna be now. It's gonna be because both things can be true.
No. Hold on.
Before I see
Shall I tell you why
physical evidence?
Wait a minute. Shall I tell you why cyclical universe? Why do you think the cyclical universe has been rejected by majority of the scientists? Do you know why? Do you know what is the second law of thermodynamics?
He's read this on Google and he's repeating it constantly and he's wrong.
Google is a very good source. You should use it sometimes.
But the fact is,
But anyway, I don't want to talk to you if you don't mind. I want to talk to this young man here. You know the cyclical universe. The reason it's not possible is because of the second law of thermodynamics. Okay? And the reason, what you should do is you should go and ask why majority of the scientists reject it. It's because there is, first and foremost, we can only go by what's in our universe. No one has seen beyond the universe. No one has seen beyond the singularity. So they cannot even say if time and space existed, let alone another universe. You see what I mean? And this is the reason I say majority of the scientists, they accept there are many models. There are many models of the universe, origin of the universe. The cyclical universe is the least accepted among them.
Even if there was another...
I don't want to talk to you, go ahead.
Even if there was zero evidence for the cyclical universe,
Yeah.
it will burn even if there was zero evidence for the cyclical universe. And I don't know, because I haven't changed it yet. And afterwards...
That's why you should read about it.
Google, because it's fascinating. But
Good.
even if there was zero evidence for the cyclical universe, it's going to be as a theory, and I mean theory in an unscientific term, on the same level as God.
No. God is, hold on. You cannot say any scientist out there has a theory about God. Okay, so you cannot say it's on the same level. First and foremost,
but there are two.
Wait, my friend, I'll let you speak. Let me speak now. No scientist out there is going to make a model about God. Okay, God by existence, like I said, it's to do with the metaphysical world. So I don't think there are scientists out there who study the physical world and they say, oh, there's a model about God, there's a model about angels, model about demons. Okay, all these things are of the metaphysical world.
Do you have
now
any
wait,
proof of a metaphysical world?
like I said, when you say proof, you're seeking scientific proof. Am I right? Am I right? Empirical evidence. Empirical evidence. You're seeking empirical evidence. Am I right?
All right.
If you don't have empirical evidence for your own consciousness, then what evidence would you seek otherwise? The very fact that that's subjective, like I said before. It's not empirical evidence. Empirical evidence, as we demonstrated earlier.
It's the only thing I can say in 100%.
My friend, as we demonstrated earlier, there's a difference between objective truth, empirical evidences, and subjective evidence. What you have, I think, therefore I am, Descartes, yes, a philosopher who coined this term,
right,
is a philosophical subjective understanding. All I'm asking you is that when you seek evidence, and you only seek, when it comes to God, you say, I want empirical scientific evidence.
Okay.
When it comes to your consciousness, I'm okay with my subjective understanding. That is the double standards.
No, but okay. When I look in a scientific way for my consciousness, and when I look in a philosophical way for my consciousness, I will think in two different ways. When I look in a scientific term, I will not think of this thing as a consciousness. I will look at my brain, and I will see.
How will you define your consciousness? No, no.
as a
Scientifically, how would you define your consciousness?
I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to define it scientifically.
Yeah, but you define many things which scientists define,
I will
including the
think of
cyclic
it as
pseudoscience in universe.
Okay, I will think of it as a
It is a
stream,
pseudoscience.
and
I'll have the right to repeat it if I want.
As the stream
Yeah, go on.
of my experiences, the stream of experiences.
Like I said, that is not scientific evidence. When you start saying it's my understanding, it's my subjective understanding, that cannot be accepted by scientific evidence, as empirical evidence. You see what I mean?
My consciousness.
So that's why you need to have a clear understanding from science about the terms you're using. So when you ask, show me evidence of God, what kind of evidence will satisfy you? That is what I asked you earlier. So once again, what criteria will satisfy you that God exists?
God exists.
Yes.
There wasn't no creation.
There you go. So, it is like me asking you to go and look for something, but I'm not going to tell you what that something is.
No, because
you don't know what you're looking for.
Because it's like someone will ask me, what will convince you that I don't know, to be for me something I really don't agree with, to be an extreme right winger. I don't know what will convince me to be an extreme right winger because I'm not.
But you know what an extreme right winger is, right? You know what is an extreme right winger.
I know what it is.
So you know the definition.
But I will not know what will convince me. I'll just say I'm open to be convinced. I'm open to be convinced about God. I'm open to be convinced about anything. Specifically God, because for me it's such.
You went from scientific empirical evidence to ideologies. Two different things again. You're comparing apples and oranges.
But
deal with one topic at a time. So we have an understanding of what we are talking. Otherwise you'll go all over the place. When you talk about a right wing, that's an ideology. Okay, so you can be a Hitler, you can be a Nazi, whatever you want to be, but as far as scientific evidence is concerned, that is an ideology, not science.
Okay.
Okay? So let's stick to science. Yeah, let's stick with science, not ideology.
To change my mind about, okay?
Yeah. When you look for something, you need to know what you're looking for.
All my opinions, I am open to change about all of them. But I don't know what will convince me about.
When you keep saying I don't know, like I said, that is appealing to ignorance. It's not a response.
But you are doing, I think, something way worse.
Well, how?
You're saying I know when you are as ignorant as me.
No, I'm not. I'll tell you why.
Why you are not?
I know something cannot come from nothing. I know. Logically, intellectually, rationally, that is impossible for something which is to come from which is nothing. Because nothing does not even exist, my friend. If something that doesn't exist, then how can it bring about something? So I know, yes, I know.
First of all, how you know it doesn't exist? Maybe the rules of physics before the Big Bang were different. I don't know.
So you don't even know the definition of nothing now.
What? Everything, okay. We can just define, words we can just define.
If you don't even know what's nothing, how can you talk about it?
Do you know what means nothing?
Nothing, of course.
What means nothing? Define what's nothing.
The absence of something.
No, everything.
The absence of so the absence of everything.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So once again, I'll ask you something. Can you think of nothing?
Can't you think of nothing? No, of course you can think of nothing.
Can you think of nothing?
No.
Why?
Because I always think about something. That's how conscious.
Thank you very much. Exactly, it doesn't exist. If something doesn't exist, how can you think about it?
Or maybe just our consciousness built that way. I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you what. How the mathematicians think about nothing. They use the representation like zero.
Pi.
Yeah?
They use the pi, empty pi.
Oh, pi. Okay. He's got a PhD in math, so I will take his word for it. So what I'm saying is that, my friend, you cannot say that something comes from nothing. This is an illogical statement to make.
Why?
Even from philosophy, even from science, from religion, from all three perspectives.
Why need to be your definition of nothing? Why?
Okay, you give me yours then.
No, I say before the Big Bang.
I give you mine. I can give you mine. What's yours?
It can be anything, but before the universe. I don't know.
No, but you can't say anything.
Maybe it's nothing.
But now you're speculating, my friend. That's not science. Now you're speculating.
But science itself.
No, science is not speculation.
No.
Science has certain theories which speculate, but the physical, what do you say? The naturalistic science.
But you're not talking about science now. You're talking about something which is way more philosophical, which is what comes before something.
Look, even if you're using philosophy, no problem. Look, no problem. But when you say there might be, there may be, there is a possibility, these are all speculations. The reason you are not sure or uncertain.
Your question is not a scientific question.
Say it?
What came before everything? Before everything, this is not a scientific question. If we can make it into a scientific question, if we will check.
Give me one reason you reject God.
Why? It's just a lack of evidence.
Ah, good. You see, without evidence, you will reject God, but everything else you'll accept. Have you noticed that?
I reject God, but I.
When you have no evidence about what happened before the universe existed, you started speculating. You started believing things without evidence.
Oh,
but when it came to God, I reject God because there's no evidence.
No.
You made a U-turn and you haven't even realized.
That's why I'm agnostic on the same level
Yeah.
as something like the cyclical universe. The cyclical universe, which repeats itself, a Big Bang and a universe and a Big Bang and a universe.
There's no evidence for that.
There's no evidence. So I am going to assume, as I'm not going to believe
Assume.
that. No, wait a minute. Have
you noticed that?
I'm going to believe that.
No. Oh, now you believe.
No, wait a minute. Enough my sentence. I'm going to believe that on the same level. I may believe in God.
Hashim,
For
have
me,
mercy.
both of them.
Hashim, have mercy, please.
But my friend, you just said that you reject God because there is no evidence.
I think
Are you going to
maybe rejection was.
Are you going to reword that?
Well,
So once
maybe
again, I ask you the
rejection-
question.
Okay, maybe rejection is our because I'm
Okay.
not simply gonna be like a house rapist. There's no way God exists. No, it makes exist and it might not. I don't know. The same thing. I don't know if the cyclical universe exists. I don't know. Maybe from what I'm saying, from my current perspective, and maybe when I will read about it in an hour, I'll say to you, the cyclical universe, it's absolutely genius. I'll say to you, the cyclical universe, it's bullshit. But it seemed like the same reasonable theory to me as God.
No, it's not. It's not. I'll tell you why not. Because you see, the reason majority of the scientists reject this cyclical universe. Yes, come here, by the way. Yeah, yeah. The reason majority of them reject it is because number one, all the evidences that points to such a theory of a cyclical. No, it's not even a theory. It's actually more of an opinion. It's more of a postulation. It hasn't even in science. Hypothesis. So in the scientific, language, it hasn't even reached the state of a theory.
Hypothesis is
Yes.
the right word.
So hypothesis comes before theory, and it hasn't even reached the status of a theory. The reason for that is because every evidence, every data that points to such a universe is non-existent.
Okay, so I have a question for you. Yeah, sure.
But otherwise, because you have issues in terms of defining things. From my observation, you cannot define things. The difference between theory, that generally it has no counter example to downgrade it to hypothesis. So that's why it's a theory. The fact between something that has an overwhelming factors that makes it as a fact. And then the hypothesis, which has no proof, it's just only speculation about something, but it's not necessarily that it's proven for it. So I could say it's a hypothesis, for example, there is monkeys in the street, that's a hypothesis. When I say it's fact, I see a monkey.
I think he knows hypothesis.
I agree absolutely 100% with everything you just
So
said.
because when you didn't define nothing, and then I was, when you define nothing, the absence of everything. So when you said something that earlier, you said this universe could come from nothing. That's totally that's totally against rationality, against even intellectual. Anyone would have, as they say, anyone with any intellectual ability. It just
I think
contradicts that.
my opinion will be a little bit different, which will be.
And either you say it came from something, or it came. If you say it came from nothing, literally, that means you cannot. You cannot use the word that the universe came from nothing.
No, I think that our definition of nothing, as we understand it,
You cannot have your own definition of nothing. You cannot have your own definition.
no. Okay.
You have
So
to have.
maybe it's a
you
little
have
bit
to
of
have
a linguistic
rational-
language.
Come here, so you can
Okay.
face the camera.
You have to have a rational definition to say what's nothing. Nothing, absence of
He
everything.
doesn't believe in God.
Absence of everything produce nothing. You
So
understand?
let's absolutely take your definition of
Not
the
of my
word nothing.
definition. This is any rational. Anyone with
Basically,
with two brain cells will know what
Let's take this definition as the word nothing as the only definition.
Point, let's
Listen,
We agree.
we're talking
We agreed.
This definition of the word
definition
nothing.
of nothing. He agreed
Okay.
the absence of
I
nothing.
say-
He agreed now.
He agreed earlier. as
Okay,
well.
so agree. Okay,
agree
let's
again.
use this definition of the word nothing. How do we know that with the definition of the word nothingness, it's what became before the universe,
No, but when you say before the universe,
before the Big Bang, or before,
even before the Big Bang, yes, what you will imagine is speculation. Am I right?
speculation, right?
So we are
It's
science.
philosophical inquiring.
Even if it's a look,
That's what we
even philosophy requires some basis for it. Even from a philosophical point of view, you still require to substantiate it. You can't just make a statement out of the blue and say that is the fact. So if I said to you that pink elephants can fly, and I say, oh, it's a philosophical understanding, you want understanding.
No, but that's not the
You see what I
same
mean?
thing. That's not the same
the
thing
same
because
thing.
I know.
How do you know?
This is more likely to have a flying pink elephant than to say nothing produce something.
But why do
You see
you
the
think?
point?
Oh, okay, I have a question. Why do you think that what became before the universe must be either nothing or
nothing?
no, either nothing.
Nothing
or,
means
We are not
no.
saying. Look,
No, I don't.
we are not
I
saying
say,
before the
no,
universe
I
was
say,
nothing.
I say, I know.
We believe in God.
No, I understand that. I say for the sake of argument. Either it must be like what you think I thinking, but the universe came from nothing, or it must came from God. I think it's maybe some other possibility.
Okay, is there another possibility?
I think about it.
Could here's the
I
Quran.
can imagine,
The
but
Quran-
it will be. But this will be kind of question which I.
You know,
think
the
are-
Quran actually asks us to ponder on this. Did we create ourselves, or did we come from nothing, or did God create us? So one of the possibilities is that the universe created itself. Could that be a possibility?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think?
Think about it.
Think about it a bit.
What do you think?
I will say. I don't know.
He has been quiet. What do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think the universe could have come by itself?
Everything is maybe.
How?
Meaning,
If it didn't even exist, how could it
I
bring
don't know.
about?
I don't know how God could have created.
Listen,
the
listen,
universe.
listen.
Ah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Do you want to know the answer to that? Do you want to know the answer to that?
That sounds interesting. Teach me what the Quran says about it. I want to
Alhamdulillah,
learn.
no problem. So, like I said, this is a question that the Quran asks us to ponder. That did we create ourselves or did we come from nothing?
Are we the creator?
Or did we come from a creator?
Okay.
So,
Are we
which
the
is the most plausible answer from this? Based on your understanding of our universe.
Which of these?
Did it come from nothing? Did it come by itself? Or did it come from a creator?
Come from nothing?
And if you got any other options,
Or
let
from
me
a
know.
creator?
Which is the most plausible explanation?
Nothing. I don't see the.
So let's do it one by one. Let's do one by one.
Okay.
Could it come from nothing based on the definition we agreed upon?
No, could it come by itself? Maybe.
Okay, wait, think about that before you answer. When you say come about by itself, remember itself didn't exist.
But maybe something
to-
did.
no, you
Maybe
have-
something
it's-
outside the universe we do.
Ah, that's a different option now.
But I don't.
Something outside the universe is another option.
But if I say there's
listen,
some.
do you know what it means? It means you have to pre-exist before your existence. You have to pre-exist before your own
But
existence.
we're talking about a category which is vastly different from anything else we talk about. When we talk about the universe itself, it's categorically different
That's my
other
point.
than talking about something like a clockwork that came for
Can you
itself.
pre-exist before your existence? Simple.
But what I'm saying, for a universe,
Can
it's
you-
different.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't. The same logic applies even for universe.
Because
The universe,
Why?
the universe didn't exist as one big universe. It came as a point, as a singularity. So that singularity, can it exist by itself?
Maybe that singularity is ever expanding forever.
No, but that's not what the scientists say. The scientists don't say the universe expanding forever. In fact, do you know how they calculate the age of the universe?
They expanded, I would say reverse expanded it. at
Very good,
one
yeah,
point.
very good. So they actually reverse the formula for the expansion,
the
and
galaxy.
they say, look, if we reverse it, then at one point
This came from one point.
it boils down to this singularity, and this is, they say, came about 13.8 billion. No one says it's eternal. No one. Okay. So once again, I'm asking you the question.
Even if we. Okay.
What, by the way, what's your name?
Ophir, what's your name?
Hashim.
Hashim.
What is
Ophir.
it?
Ophir.
Ophir, and you are
Elad.
Elad. That's a more common name.
Where are you from?
We're from Israel.
From Israel.
Israel. Okay.
Okay, so I think Brother Jisan's got a question for you.
Yeah, so Ophir, I think what I was saying was, and the reason why these brothers were saying that is, it's called the inference to the best explanation. This is a concept that's used in science as well, which is you look at the possible explanations that are possible or that could occur. So something coming from nothing, something creating itself, there being a creator that has a beginning, there being a creator with no beginning. And then what you do is you analyze each of those individual points and you say which one of these is more likelier than the other. We're not looking for definite answers at the moment. What we're doing is we're scaffolding the answer. Yeah? So you look at one thing, then we say, okay, this is the most likely answer. Let's move on to the next step. Then we move on to that. Then we say, okay, what's more likely there? So what they were saying was something coming from nothing. If, for example, you say the universe came from nothing, what then, when it created itself, you're assuming that the universe created itself, isn't it?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I think that the probability of the universe creating itself some way, an uncreated creator created it, and a created creator created it. I see them all at the same level of logical possibility.
Okay, good. So let's break these down then. Something coming...
By the way, that's a very interesting argument. That's like a fascinating inquiry what you're just doing.
No, that's
so
why...
I'm really fascinated by the argument, so please continue.
Yeah, Ophir, look. The thing is, even in Speaker's Corner when we come, we're not here to put anybody down. It's just that sometimes some people, they have come across certain arguments and we just want to share them, so don't feel that, we're being imposed.
Of course. I just want to say, by the way, but I love talking to you. And it's
We love talking to you, but but
I want to say like more generally because I come from Israel. There's lots of violence, and it's great like talking to people and see Muslim people and feel joy, feel like we can live together. And that's personally what I really believe. So it's really great talking to you guys. Really.
So coming back to the thing of it, it's nice that you find this argument or this discussion very fascinating because something coming from nothing. Think of it like this: when people say that the universe came by itself, there's two assumptions here. Number one, either the universe already existed and created itself, or the universe existed and then the forces created everything. And that's the argument that Stephen Hawking presents. He says he deifies forces. Would you say that something along your lines, that it's not that the universe existed before and then created?
Forces, I think that's a possibility. My understanding of science, which is extremely limited.
No problem.
Extremely limited, is that in the singularity, it's like a black hole. At time itself work differently, so we can't really say what came before because time began that point. We think about time and space and mass as things which are disconnected, but science tells us otherwise. There's a various connection between mass and energy and time itself. So maybe we can say what came before mass and those forces, because both forces and time are not disconnected. We just experience them as disconnected in the universe.
Let's stick with the forces for now.
Let's stick with the forces.
Yeah, so the forces are here. Have you ever seen forces create something?
Forces create something. No, but I do know that we look at forces and at mass as two distinct things.
When you say force, you mean energy?
Energy, exactly. As energy and mass as two distinct things.
Energy transforms. It doesn't really bring about anything. It transforms. One type of energy transforms into another, and according to the first law of thermodynamics, energy can neither be created nor destroyed in a closed environment.
My understanding of current science is close to what you're saying, but it's a little bit different. It's not just the law of the conservation of energy, it's the law of conservation of energy and mass. Because we know in the beginning... No, but it's not just the law of conservation of energy, it's the law of the conservation of energy and mass. Because
are you making new law?
No, I'm just saying energy is mass. Energy is mass, exactly. In the beginning of the universe, both mass and air. If someone
what is the point
understands
What's your argument?
No. The question I asked was, is it forces that you're attributing deistic powers to, that are forces creating stuff? And then he said possibly, And then the point that I was trying to get to was forces are descriptive and prescriptive. They are not creative. Forces never make something. Let me give you an example. If do you play snooker?
The snooker, yeah, of course.
Snooker, yeah. So the cue hits the ball. Yeah? It's not gravity that hits the ball. The theory of gravity or the theory of motion describes how the ball moves. It doesn't cause the ball to move.
But we experience energy and mass as two distinct things. Science tells us in the beginning of the universe that wasn't necessarily the case. It's just another example of how our understanding of the universe is not necessarily relevant to like the beginning of the universe, to the singularity.
And not necessarily irrelevant. So we go to hypothesis again. You said not necessarily irrelevant, and as well it's not necessarily irrelevant. So we study the things here. My point is that he is trying to, we were saying to you from the beginning, if you say we have this universe came into existence, and we have demonstrated saying this to you, that nothing produced nothing.
So maybe something
Not
produced
maybe.
something.
So something produced something. That's my point. Yes, you have to be something to produce something. So you cannot say the universe came into existence by itself, because you have to pre-exist before your existence to make yourself to exist.
If we take
energy and the mass
let's
of
look,
circumference of it.
let's look at this argument, okay? Because I look at this argument and I think, okay, so that's something that created everything else. You can call it God, but before God. That's
Before God.
Let's before.
What's before God?
But exactly, this is only the question. What created God? Because you said everything must have a cause.
Okay.
The first cause must be God.
That's good
And I said,
question. At least-
why God is a good first cause?
That's good question. Let's use this question.
Yeah, we
Let's
have-
use this question.
Yeah, that's the question. I think that's where we're going with
So
it.
listen,
He'll answer.
listen. So we have these few things. So we have to exclude that nothing this universe came from nothing. We exclude that. We have to exclude to say this universe created itself. We have to exclude this, and
Why?
because it is impossible to pre-exist before your existence. Simple as that. You cannot exist before your existence. You cannot give birth to yourself. You have to pre-exist before your existence. You have to have your own consciousness to produce yourself to come to existence. It doesn't work. When you are nothing and then you came to start, you go back to the point nothing produced something. Because that's why when I say to you, when you say the universe created itself, means the universe has to pre-exist. You understand what it means pre-exist? Before existence.
Okay, so
It is impossible to say this.
No, let's answer his question.
even-
Why is God not created like everything else?
Before we get, do you understand this point?
I understand point, but I just think that okay, so you say that
Listen.
something must have created the universe.
Listen, don't bring I think and I thought, that's not right. That's not rational way to deal with things. I think and I thought, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what I think. We're talking about science.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
So
it doesn't matter what you
something-
think. We are not here to see what you think or what I think. We are here to see what are the facts. You understand?
Okay,
So,
so-
when you say rationality, in rationality, does something produce itself? Meaning, does it pre-exist before existence? In rationality, in any person with two cells in his brain.
It's irrational, you know that.
Do you understand?
But you just assume that God.
Not assume. Leave what
Yeah,
you assume. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about this
Is it
point.
logical possibility?
But so okay, so okay.
To pre-exist before existence. Do you understand this question?
Pre-exist before existence.
Is it possible?
No, if something didn't even exist,
Okay.
is it
Are you
logically possible for it to bring itself into existence?
Of course not. Okay. Let's move forward with this argument. I want.
Now,
to
so
what is your answer?
What
Let
do
him
you
answer.
think?
Let him answer.
You answer this. Then we'll move
If
to
you-
No,
this.
I want to know because you assume that there must be something outside
Leave
of the
what you
something
assume.
was
Listen,
created.
Listen.
Yes.
Either.
Yeah, no.
One second.
Yes, that's-
Either you are deliberately ignoring the question to try to jump into something else, or I don't know what's going.
I want to answer you.
We'll come where we
Okay.
stand. My question stands to you.
Okay.
Can the object produce itself?
Okay, so let's say no. Okay.
Not let's say. Not let's
Is
say.
it a logical possibility?
No. Okay.
So
That's
it's,
it.
so it's not.
So let's
logical
move on
possible,
then.
yeah?
Let's move on.
Okay.
I think
good.
Zishan's got a question for you.
Okay.
Zishan,
Now we come to the last
Yeah.
point now here to say. So there have to be something to create this
Then
universe.
answer his
Correct.
question now about God. Can you,
Because-
why?
Yeah, I know.
If everything is
to me back
if
to
everything
the
is a
three,
cause, why does God not have a cause?
They seem to be back to the three options of possibilities of a universe which is
Came from nothing, which is can't. It
no, I
should be-
think as a universe means maybe I don't know, maybe it's always existed in some way, shape, or form.
always exist means infinity. Infinity doesn't exist in science.
It's a concept,
It's a concept. Infinity.
just like nothing.
I am mathematician.
Just like
Infinity
nothing.
is a mathematical
Concept, yes.
concept. It doesn't exist in the real life.
I think I know my current understanding of science is that our experience.
In science, there is no infinity.
No, but if time and mass, okay, are not two totally distinct concepts, okay?
Time and mass.
Yes.
What's
No,
time?
I'm thinking about time and mass, and I
Time and mass, there's no connection between
Exactly.
time and mass. Time and space. Yes,
Let him.
time and mass.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
I think you mean time and space.
Listen,
Time and
he's
space.
young. He's young. He wants to express himself. It's okay.
I'll tell you. I will say about my current understanding of science. Okay, like in a black hole. Okay, when you come close to the black hole, time is condensed. When you come to the event horizon,
It's hypothesis. There is nothing.
no, this is a theory. This is
that's hypothesis.
I don't remember.
That's
It's a
hypothesis.
general. It's because
They say mass and things, but they never talk about time. It's
no,
hypothesis.
we do talk about time.
No, it's hypothesis.
We do talk about time.
Yeah, they don't know
It
what
is
happens.
hypothesis. No one wants that to know what's going
They
on.
don't have a
We do
clue.
talk about time.
They
Someone
don't
please
have a-
connect me if I'm on, but we
They,
do talk
they
about
don't
time.
have a clue what happens.
No
to
one
you.
is hypothesis.
Unless you're saying time is related to the speed. Is that what you're saying?
It's hypothesis. Still, it's hypothesis. There is
Speed
no
of light.
fact. There's no
Time
fact.
is relevant. Is that what you're trying to say? It's relative.
No, that's not okay. That's
let's-
not what I try to
let-
say.
let
But I
us
don't
answer
think
the
it's very
question that you
important
asked about God.
to the argument. I'm just saying.
I
But
I appreciate you're young. You want to explore the world. I understand this.
No.
At the same time, and you clash with these concepts. I understand this. And I don't know what's the level of your studies or whatever, but for me, you are all over the place apart from the point. Let's go back to the.
Let's go back to the point. But I can see what you say.
Let's go back to the point, but
Let's go with Loka.
Look, okay. Look,
It's okay. It's really, I'm really sorry. Someone
fair,
is speaking
fair.
English.
Fair.
in complete sentences.
No
I'm
problem,
sorry.
no problem.
Listen to this.
Oh, fair.
I want to hear.
Yeah, so what we did was we were exploring options. Some options, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said there is a slight possibility for them. No problem, there can be a slight possibility, but we are looking for the greatest possibility. Something coming from nothing. In our logical experience, rationality, empiricism, ontology, any field of study that we know, it's simply not possible. In fact, if we start believing things can come from nothing, our life becomes illogical. We can start crossing the road. If you see nothing, there is a possibility something can pop up. You can go home, you're not married, your wife can pop up. Yeah? You go to
with a
school.
child.
That's one
With a
thing.
child.
So okay.
You go to school.
If I wait a minute. If I totally accept.
Let me just build this, yeah?
Yeah.
Because this is very important. What I'm trying to say is, when it comes to our daily understanding of how we exist, we have to be sensible. Yes, there might be a small possibility according to philosophy. Philosophically, yeah, maybe this happened and maybe that happened. No, according to philosophy, there's multiple possible worlds. But we say no problem. What we do is, look, we have to be, let's be grounded for now. Let's be grounded, and we know in our daily experience, nothing comes by itself. Do you agree? Yeah. And we know nothing creates itself.
I agree.
In science, you can search this up, it's called the cosmic bootstrap. It's like you're trying to pick yourself from your own boots, yeah. So that doesn't make sense. Now, the only thing, Ophir, is if you depend on something, you're not independent, are you? You depend on something. So you depend on something else depends on something else, something else. If that goes on for infinity, you cannot exist.
I have a question for you.
Finish this one first.
No.
That's very important.
No. I am.
Offer. His name is Offer?
My name is Ofer.
Offer.
But that seems maybe very
Ofer,
rational
Ofer.
for me. I need to think about it, but it seems to be very rational.
Have you heard of infinite regress?
Infinite regress?
Yes.
It's why
Infinite regress? Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you came back. First of all, there must be some cause which have no cause. So I think that if the unmovable mover, yes, this is the
So if you were-
Aristotelian proof of God. So,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, one
So
of
I
them,
have
one of-
I-
one
one
of
of them. I have a question for you.
You know your earlier question? If everything has a cause, why does God not have a cause?
Yes.
That's where the infinite regress argument comes in.
Okay. I really
So
want to hear that.
would you even exist if there was infinite regress of number of causes?
If we're infinite regress of causes, why not?
Dependency, everything depends, keeps on going. If it goes on infinitely, then you can't exist because there is no root cause.
Oh, fair. Think of it like this. If I am to throw this at you,
No, I understood the argument perfectly. I understood, but I have a question for you.
What's your take
No,
on
I
this?
have
Okay,
a
what's your
question for you
question?
because it seems to me very reasonable. But I have one question.
Fair, listen.
what's the question?
Answer this and then we'll receive
No,
all the questions.
I say I'm not think you might be right. No, I will, but I will have to answer the next question. Okay? Let's accept everything you just said. The Aristotelian argument, the unmovable mover. Let's say it all seems to be perfectly logical for us. How do we come from this argument to an argument about, I mean specifically the Abrahamic God, the God of the different
You're
revelations?
jumping the gun. We need to first
No, but
establish
I wa-
logically of this prime mover
No, but
before
if-
you decide whether it's Abrahamic or not. See what I mean? So let's not jump the gun.
Okay, so
You're jumping the gun now.
let's take it step by step. If I accept the reason of the prime mover, like 100%.
You accept it.
No, I need to think about it. But I'm.
You said 100%. Now he's saying
No, I say if we accept 100% because for the sake of argument, I want to
Okay.
hear your next argument.
Go on.
Okay, let me finish off this argument because
Okay, I want to
when
hear
you-
it.
yeah, because when you're reflecting on it, I don't want you to reflect on half of the argument. You need to reflect on the full argument.
Absolutely, I want to hear
And
it.
I'll abridge it for you, abridge the version. Yeah, so their example was that you can't have an infinite regress of dependent things. For example, if I throw this at you, I need to ask permission before I throw it. I have to ask him, he asks him, he asks him, he asks him. It keeps going on for infinity. Can I throw it? Of course not, because permission is still being sought. So there has to be an end that says yes. Then yes. Then
I know this argument. I
So
know it.
philosophically, whether it's causation, whether it's dependency, either way, either you call it the prime mover or you call it the necessary being. This is something I wanted you to leave with. Because some people have an issue with the first cause, no problem. Even if you call it a necessary being, the argument is still the same. Necessary being, first cause. It's philosophically sound, it's logically sound, it's ontologically sound. That's very important for you to understand. Now, the next thing is, what sort of qualities does that necessary being
That's the
need to
interesting
have?
question.
Yeah. So if we accept that that necessary being is the first, yeah, that means nothing is coming before it and it doesn't cease to exist. If it ceases to exist, which is the definition of a necessary being, stop me if I confuse you, yeah? The definition of a necessary being is it cannot cease to exist and it's not made from parts.
Okay, but if it's the first cause,
Same thing,
It is the
necessary or
uncaused
first cause.
cause.
Answer
Same
the
by the
form.
man.
Yeah. So the definition of something being necessary is it's not made from parts, it cannot cease to exist, and it can't be any other way. So this is the philosophical definition of necessary being. So the fact that it's there, that presupposes that it is pre-eternal and post-eternal, that it has will, because we have come...
Can you say again why it must be pre-eternal and...
Yeah, because if it ceases to exist, that means it's dependent and it's not necessary. So the fact that it's
And if it's causality and not dependency?
we're using them interchangeably in this example. Whether it's causation or dependency.
It's an uncaused cause.
No, but if it's dependency, so this...
If it's dependency, then
so
that thing
so
depends
that
on something else.
Yes, so it must continue to...
Yeah, there has to be a necessary
But
being.
if it's a causality and not a dependency, that thing, I think, doesn't need to be eternal. Am I correct?
Yes. If it's an uncaused cause, then there is no dependency.
Yeah, if it's
Then
a
it is-
dependency, then that thing might be exist in the past and not exist anymore.
Yeah, it's eternal.
Yeah.
It has to have a will. It has
Yeah,
to be
because
have
the fact that
power.
we-
I don't get it.
Okay, because the fact that created that necessary being, and then we come after the necessary being at a specific time, at a specific moment, and no one told that necessary being to create us, indicates that there is will to create something without being told at a specific period of time is will. And we have to assume that there is power. Because if we have power, you can't say that necessary being doesn't have power as well. We're conscious, that necessary being has to be conscious as well. So these are very fundamental points. Are we in agreement of these fundamental points?
I don't get why, if there is a unmovable mover, okay? And I already accept it.
Yeah.
Why does this mover, first of all, need to continue to exist? Why it need to be eternal? And why it need to be conscious?
Because by definition, first cause implies that it's the first cause. And
Self-existent.
yeah, it's self-explanatory, self-existing, self-sufficient. Because if that first cause then is not the first cause, it's just a cause in a chain. It's not the first cause.
I get it.
So
need to
it's
be
a contradiction.
self-sufficient.
You'll get stuck again in the infinite regress. If you
Yeah.
start saying, what caused it? See what I mean? You're back to square one in the infinite regress, then we wouldn't exist. The universe wouldn't exist. Nothing would exist.
That's why they were saying that argument's important to understand, because if you misunderstand that argument, then the questions start increasing. It's important for you to understand
I
necessary.
get why it need to be eternal. Now I
Yeah.
get it. Why it need to be conscious?
Okay, if there is, do you believe that there is consciousness in creation? Do you believe you're conscious?
I believe I'm conscious.
Do you believe there is consciousness?
Well, I think we might have different
But there is-
definitions of consciousness.
No
but
problem.
there is consciousness.
Yeah.
Do you think your brother has consciousness?
Yes, all of us are conscious, of course.
Alhamdulillah. So there is consciousness in the creation.
There is consciousness.
Good.
in creation.
So logically, it assumes, or it follows that the creator must be conscious as well.
Why?
In order to
I
create,
think we might evolve to be conscious, but it doesn't mean if there is an unmovable mover, why it need to be conscious. It
Okay,
need to
when
be
you,
some kind of
when you say we evolve to be conscious, what you're saying is that a material thing is causing something that's immaterial. That's something science raises its hands at.
I don't think consciousness is immaterial. I think we experience it as immaterial.
so what is consciousness made of?
It's not made of something because it's not one thing.
Well, if it's a material, it must be made of something, right?
But we look at our definition of consciousness
Can you
as
define what's conscious?
Consciousness is a stream of our objective experiences.
No, subjective.
Oh, subjective experiences. My bad. A consciousness is a stream.
So what is it? What is this subjective understanding which you call consciousness made of? Because you said it is material.
Made of many things.
me
A
one
combination of different hormones. Some hormones may be angry. Some hormones may be
that's not
sad.
conscious.
I think you are defining your brain,
They may
not your consciousness.
because our
Because
consciousness.
when you're dead, you still have a brain, but no consciousness.
Because the why. תבדוק שלא מתקשרים אלינו, תתקשר רגע לאמא ואבא.
Yes, basically, when you die, you have half
This-
an hour.
yeah.
Half an hour, your brain still alive, but you don't have conscious. Do you know that?
But okay.
Even when you're unconscious.
Even when you're unconscious, your brain
Even while you're still
works.
alive and
And
you're
you're alive,
unconscious,
but you're
if
unconscious.
somebody slaps you while you're unconscious, you want to know who slapped you.
Let's say you had a stroke. You're still conscious. Your body doesn't work. Doesn't respond to your brain anymore. But you're not unconscious.
Okay.
So
So this is the point.
All right, let's get back to what this one was
No, I
Consciousness
okay.
cannot be proven by anything physical. This is not
doesn't have
any,
empirical
You
evidence.
know, you can get someone to
No,
a
no,
brain
no.
scanner,
No,
and
no, no.
1 millisecond before he made an action.
yeah, they did a brain scan
You
of
know-
a jelly. They did a brain scan of a jelly. You know the jelly that you eat with ice cream, and it came back with the same results as a live brain. So scanning
Anyway,
your
so
brain doesn't.
what are you saying again?
what you're correlating, what you're correlating is electrical signal in the brain equals consciousness. So again, you're
It's
still
a part of the consciousness. All our
according to whose definition?
according to whose definition?
Who says this? Ofe, no one says this.
We need to.
I've studied this.
Okay.
Yeah, no one says this. The only difference is the Descartesian point of view and the modern materialist point of view. But again, Descartes said it's the pituitary gland or the pineal gland.
I can see why. I knew the thing. I would like you to explain this to me. Why our consciousness can't be even if we experience it.
No,
as
no,
something which
you
is-
experience. That's why it's called subjective.
No, we
But
as,
if you-
as,
you know
as
when-
each one of us
No, no.
experience
If
it.
each one of everyone has their own subjective understanding. For example, if I were to ask you, whom do you love more, your cat or your mom? Now, who is able to answer that other than yourself?
No one.
Why is that? If it is
That's
material,
subjective.
then I should be able to attach some devices to you, and then it'll show me on the screen, okay, who loves whom more. The
And we
fact,
can check that.
no, you can't.
You can check your
Emotions,
body.
emotions are subjective.
You
And
can
in
see
fact-
scanners in your
in fact,
brain.
the reason some
we
people,
can see your emotions.
the reason some people actually can even trick a lie detector is because the lie detector is unable to say whether the guy is really lying, which was the whole
Sometimes.
task of that device.
Sometimes. If
So that's what I'm
if you
telling you,
are
guys. It is not something which scientifically is possible.
No, not everything.
It's subjective.
Sometimes-
That's why it's called subjective.
No, but science, it's not that our emotions, okay? Our thoughts.
Your
our
emotions, your thoughts,
feelings,
everything is part of your consciousness.
But it's not necessarily immaterial.
Okay,
It's,
fair.
it's physical, chemical
No, it's not.
machinations in our brain
Like I
and
said,
in our
that's
bodies.
the electromagnetic pulses. It's not your consciousness.
state argument though? What's your argument?
Our consciousness, it's not need to be something ethereal or metaphysical. It can be someone which is completely
Have you heard
physical.
of this? Have you heard of this term called the hard problem of consciousness?
The hard problem of consciousness.
Have you
no.
come across this phrase?
No,
Go
that
and-
seems.
Go and look it up.
I will
Yes.
write it right now because it seems fascinating.
Good.
So I will write.
Okay, so
Under the task for your
as,
Google
as
search.
you're doing
Yes,
that,
this is actually
as you're
lovely,
doing that,
I think.
Ofe, what you're
should
saying
do
is
the
that certain parts of the brain light up when you feel certain emotions.
Yes, yes.
Therefore, you can conclude that this
Yeah.
person loves that particular person.
That's the thing.
Yeah. However, Ofe, the problem with that science is that the more
Can you just tell me the problem of hard
The
consciousness?
hard problem of consciousness.
hard problem of consciousness.
Yeah, you can continue.
So every scientist has consciousness, and every scientist believes by faith that they have consciousness, not by empirical evidence.
But
Yeah, you can't prove it through physical means. That's why it's called the hard problem of consciousness. But the more they're looking into
But
neuroscience,
if you're just saying that we don't know something about consciousness, so the answer must be something metaphysical, it must be something ethereal, it must be something which we can't explain in science. I say we don't know it yet.
Okay, so don't tell us we are wrong then. If you
No,
don't
no.
know.
So maybe we will find out. But right now, I don't know.
you think it should be something physical.
I think it's probably something physical.
Okay, that's a big problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, that falls into scientism. And you're assuming that in order for something to exist, it has to be physical. Your dreams, your emotions, your feelings, none of these are physical. Yeah, even when you go to sleep, the stuff that you see in your head, it doesn't exist. In fact, photosynthesis, in fact, oxygen, where does oxygen come from?
In the air?
From the air.
Okay.
Okay, it's in the air, but where is it produced? What produces the oxygen in the air?
Well,
The answer is behind you, the green thing there.
the trees, okay?
No, but that's what I'm trying to say. You might say
process.
tree, it's not even the tree. Most of the oxygen that we have actually comes from the surface of the ocean. Yeah, it's called phytoplankton, and it's actually invisible to the naked eye. You actually can't see it. Oxygen is naked, it's invisible to the naked eye. Yeah, if I was to hit you, pain is invisible to the naked eye.
Gravity.
Dark matter, 85% of what we know is invisible to the naked eye. We don't know. It just doesn't exist. So for you to say that, no, it has to be something physical, that's something that even science would say, you know what?
But when I say physical, I mean it can be
You can measure it.
you can
Material.
You can observe.
anything we can observe, something we can measure, some it can
You
be
can't do-
electricity in our brain.
You can't do none of
It
that
can
with your consciousness.
Okay,
Even
You
if
can't do any of those.
the cognition part of the brain that created by consciousness that you see on the MRI scan, not the consciousness itself. It's a cognition part. You know, I'm a neuroscience, so I'm
It's the effect
cognition.
that you see.
So, like, if the attention, perception, and consciousness, you cannot see them on the MRI scanning. The cognition part is like the blood flow of the brain. You actually see that on the MRI scanning.
I have a
Very
question.
understanding.
Why do you assume if we can see something, that thing have to be metaphysical? Maybe we just didn't discover it yet. Maybe we will.
it's because science tells us that there is such thing as metaphysical things.
How?
Dark matter. That's, you know, we don't know anything about it, and we look.
Why it need to be metaphysical? Maybe we just didn't find out.
I didn't say it's metaphysical. I'm saying that because we haven't discovered it, for us to assume everything is physical is illogical. For example, your dreams, that's never gonna come up. No one can actually see what's going on in your brain in a scanner. Yes, it might tell you this person's feeling angry, happy, sad, but the actual dream that you're seeing in your head, that's something that no one can see. And that is metaphysical. Science has to.
Why I don't understand why it need to be metaphysical.
Your
Maybe
dream, are your
just-
dreams physical?
But if the fact that they don't physical,
No,
but
think
they
about it.
just in my brain,
My friend,
doesn't mean they're metaphysical.
No, think about it. Is your dream physical? Just think about the
Of course
question.
not.
Answer. Okay, so if it's not physical, what is it?
It's happening in my brain. It's like my thoughts.
Your brain is physical, but your thoughts are not.
Can you see that dream? If I open up your brain, can I see the dream there?
No, but maybe I say if you say that our science today can see that, maybe science in 100 years will. Well, science before 100 years couldn't tell us most of the things we talk about today. Okay, maybe in 100 years it can. I don't
But
need
why
to
are you
insert
assuming?
God
You know, just
into
like-
the holes that exist today in science.
Just like you're saying, we are assuming. Why are you assuming everything has to be physical?
Everything what?
Why does everything have to be physical?
Why does everything have to be physical?
Yeah, based on your understanding, the universe that we are in
I
today.
just don't-
Why does everything in the universe need to be physical? Why?
What do you mean by physical? Do you mean like
Like it needs to be observed, it needs to be measured, like empirical evidence for it.
empirical evidence?
Yeah, why do you think that?
It might be.
Could it be possible that the science, the tool that you're using, it's actually limited in understanding the entire universe, and it can only observe the physical side of it, but it's beyond the scope of science to look at the metaphysical part. So what you're doing is you're using a tool which is unfit to look at the metaphysical. It is like me giving you a metal detector and telling you go and find me some plastic. Will you find plastic?
Okay. So I have. Okay.
So you're using a tool which is unfit to look at the metaphysical world, and it never claimed, by the way, science never claims to look at the metaphysical. It has always claimed that it is to observe the physical, the naturalistic world. And that is what we should limit it to. But if you're going to use the tool to use for everything like a magic wand, it won't solve all your problems. Because you're using a tool which is limited in itself.
I think that you look at the holes we have in science. If it's the hard consciousness problem, or if it's the beginning of the universe, the holes we have in science, because we have many holes in science, and science can't tell us anything. When we send God or metaphysical thinking into those holes,
No, we are not using God of the gaps here.
I
If
think
that's
it's
what you're
pretty
trying
much
to,
God of
if
the
that's what you're
gaps.
trying to imply,
Fair.
you're using science of the gaps. In fact,
That's very good. Yeah, nice. I
Can
like
I say something on your behalf? Because I actually think you do believe in God, but you are so skeptical because you want to make sure 100% before you confess that belief.
What are you talking
he,
about?
he
Confirmation
believes in
bias?
seeing is believing, kind of thing.
I'm just talking
It's
on your
about
behalf. You correct
accepting
me if
the
I'm wrong.
unseen.
Yeah,
Yeah, he wants to
confirmation
lead.
biases.
He wants to
You
lead,
want to be 100% sure,
but he wants to know what's at the other end
and that's why you're
because he can't see it.
Confirmation.
He has no lead.
Okay,
trying to be
fair.
skeptical
Okay.
to all the other possibilities.
Do you believe that empirical evidence is the only way to reaching truth? Let's stick with the bare bones of the matter.
That empirical evidence are the only way of reaching truth? That's an interesting question. Actually, I'm right now reading Kant's criticism of pure reason, and that's the big question in there. So I must say I don't know it because I want to read it first and then assume an answer. But for what I know now, I will say no, because I have experience of my thoughts which are not physical, and it's the only way which I think, maybe currently, it's the only way I think
Okay,
something which is not
yeah.
physical or which I can assume knowledge of.
Right. Most of science, correct me if I'm wrong, relies on testimony.
Yes.
Yes? And testimony is not something that can be proven by the scientific method.
Testimony is not something.
Do you think testimony
Can you?
can it be
You
used?
can't
as-
prove
The
testimony
usage
using
of the
scientific
word
method.
testimony confuses me.
Okay.
He does an experiment,
Like your
writes a
parents
report.
told you that you're their child.
Okay.
Without you looking at any evidence, will you believe them?
But me looking at every evidence.
Any evidence. Without you looking or searching for like a DNA
will
test
think-
or something like that,
I'll tell
would you
what I
believe
know.
would you
If I
believe
was-
that testimony?
If I was not nothing, if I looked nothing like them at all, I will be a bit suspicious. I know that because I look like them.
Even if you look like them, there is still going on testimony. Because you think you look like them, and then one day you say that, oh, hold on, that guy resembles me. Then what, will you change your mind and think that those people are your parents?
No.
That's one example, but also, you know, when you
No,
are...
but things are not either 100% wrong
Okay,
or 100%
no problem, no
true.
problem.
There are different
Oh,
levels
fair.
of probability.
When you were at school,
It's very probable they are my parents.
when you were at school, did you do every single experiment that you learned in the textbooks?
No.
Right. So you took them on testimony, yeah?
Yeah, okay.
Testimony of the teacher. That's an example of testimony.
Okay.
Even the scientists
Because
don't perform every
testimony a bit
Exactly.
confused me,
experiment.
right? No, I just never
Yeah.
I just never heard the word testimony used in this
You
exact
know,
definition.
every
So I will-
scientist,
No, I will actually.
they don't perform
You
every
will look into
experiment.
No, I will actually love to hear the rest of the argument because I think I understand what you meant saying by testimony.
Yeah, because testimony just means that you're at school, you've asked the teacher, you are trusting the teacher, what the teacher is saying without doing the experiment yourself. It's testimony.
Yes, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I would say over 90% of science relies on testimony.
Absolutely. You don't expect every scientist to perform every experiment. And then they say, unless I myself perform that experiment, I'll not believe it.
Yes, okay.
So what they do is they go based on credible scientists, whom they have trust, whom the scientific community has a trust in, and they accept
Yeah, okay. I
their
understand.
testimony.
No, I just
Also
didn't
we have a
understand the usage
reliability.
of the word
Yeah.
testimony, but I just understand what
Now
I
you
was
know
saying.
what
I
it
want to.
That's good.
I want you to continue the argument.
So he was asking you, is the only way to derive truth through
No.
empirical
What
evidence?
was that? You're saying testimony.
He accepts
So,
it.
yeah, you accept testimony. What I'm saying is testimony is something that can't be proven by the scientific method. So if you're saying things need to be proven by science, the very thing science relies on, it can't prove.
No, but if we would want everything to be
Proven by science.
no. With no testimony, which will be, and I'm sorry for my English, I'm really sorry. By the way. Sorry. We will be physically unable to do science because it will be unpractical.
Right. But you
That's
still
why we
understand
have-
my point though, yeah?
Yeah, I understand my point, but we have.
you are relying on something.
We must rely on testimony for practical reasons.
Right,
No,
problem.
to derive truth. That was his question, remember? Is evidence, is empirical evidence, only way to reach certainty or to reach truth? Now you have realized that there's
Yeah, that you have to,
testimony
yeah.
as well. Do you understand?
But yeah, and
So it's a two-pronged thing. Number one, you have to use testimony. And number two, if you say everything needs to be proven by science, testimony can't be proven by science, by its own metric.
okay, but nah, it's a bit of a game because
No, it's
First,
not.
no,
That's,
I think
that's a brilliant point.
I think that,
I'm hearing
but we
wait
have,
for an
but we
answer.
don't have any option not to use some kind of
No,
testimony.
you saying, oh, I have no other option but to use a pink unicorn, that doesn't mean that a pink unicorn exists. You still have to prove that it exists for you to
But
say...
that testimony is okay. So you're saying
My-
I think let me
Okay, let me-
let me check if I understand your argument correctly. It seems like you point to science to being some kind of a house of cards because it's based upon
No.
this testimony.
What I'm saying is...
We are saying the scientists themselves use testimony.
And
We use testimony of
and
other
science is not enough.
and
Science is
scientific
not enough.
experiments of people that we trust, and you say those people might not be trusted.
So this is used by the scientists themselves. So you cannot deny it.
Yeah, he's saying where are you going after this?
Yeah, so the point was that when it comes to science, you're saying it's something that should be experimented, it should be something that's empirical and God of the gaps. I'm saying when it comes to you guys using stuff that you need, like testimony, you've given no evidence for it and you've just plucked it out and said, yeah, we need it to do science, otherwise things are going to be absurd. That's my point.
Yeah, but the specific testimony that we will use.
Regardless, you can't prove testimony using
The point he's
science.
saying is that you don't use the scientific method
Yeah.
to accept testimony.
To accept testimony, but the testimony itself.
What is your
use
basis for accepting testimony? Is it scientific or not?
The basis of accepting testimony?
Yeah.
I think that.
Is it just belief on trust or is it scientific?
Just say belief so we can move on.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but
It's belief. You have no evidence to prove. You can't put testimony under a microscope and do hypotheses and repeat falsification. It's impossible. You can't
some
do it.
level of belief. Of course,
The whole thing is
some
belief.
level of belief, but I can be so I can be 100% sure of nothing. But I can.
Okay, so there is room for belief then in your worldview, right?
Of some belief, yes. In my worldview, the 100% probability of being sure of anything is quite absurd. Maybe only my thoughts, but.
Ofe.
Bro, you're not hyper skeptical, are you?
Okay, Ofe, even maths, you do maths, isn't it?
Maths.
Yeah, maths relies on axioms. Axioms can't be proved.
Oh wow, that's a big nostalgic.
Axioms are the fundamental building blocks of
I know.
mathematics.
I just had big nostalgic to high school.
What do you mean axioms can't be proved? I thought it can be.
No, axioms are the building blocks of mathematics.
Yeah, but you need to substantiate it. You can't just make up an axiom.
Yeah, but even that. Yeah, well, like what comes before axioms? Nothing. Axioms are the bedrock of
They are,
mathematics.
but they are substantiated.
You can measure it, but
It's not like some.
Personally, I did.
They're substantiated like even these things, but it's like necessary being. It has to be substantiated.
But I think
But you can't say, what came before it. Axioms are the necessary being of mathematics. Yeah.
So you just
Yeah,
believe
exactly.
on what your parents and mother say that you are the from his child, you're their child. So you never ponder over your evidences and the other stuff as well, like DNA testing.
I think that most of the things we believe, if we incur into it, it's not certain knowledge. It's not certain knowledge, of course.
Not everything,
But
but there are many things we do have certain knowledge.
Based on
Like you
we
exist.
spoke about objective.
I exist, yeah. But
That's
that
certain
maybe,
knowledge.
That might be the only thing which is certain knowledge.
So there is something that's certain knowledge, which
That's
you
the only
exist.
thing.
What about your thoughts?
My thoughts that exist on based on my when I say me, I mean my thoughts. I mean
And
my
language?
my stream of consciousness.
Does language exist?
Does language exist? Oh, that's an interesting question because language as a part of my thoughts or as something which other people
Whatever you define
practice.
it.
Whatever. Does it exist?
Because we were jumping here from to a really extremely philosophical point of view. Because if we're talking merely that
Wittgenstein.
purely philosophically,
You started it.
I'm so sorry. What kind of Pandora box did I open?
Yeah, exactly.
Only in the philosophical sense, the only thing which is certain is the existence of my thoughts. I don't know if any.
False.
What if you
That's false.
had a mental case? Would you then trust yourself in it?
Would I trust myself, my own thoughts?
Yeah, even your own thoughts. Would you trust yourself?
No, what I said is I will trust the existence of my own thoughts.
Yeah, but you've been refuted by philosophers. Like Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But Nietzsche said, what's I?
Oh, but I
That's
am
presupposing me.
Buddha said
But
that too, of
Wittgenstein said, but that you need language to presuppose that question even exists, otherwise you can't even communicate it. So that's what I'm trying to say. You're just putting yourself in a circle. But he made a very good point. If we look at your brain and your understanding, you believe everything is random. Yeah? How can you trust that your mind, which is mindless, materialistic, unconscious, and unguided, how can you trust your own brain that it will help you reach truth?
How can I trust my own?
Based on these four things that I've said, it's unconscious.
What? But your definition of consciousness.
No
is,
problem. Materialistic, mindless, unconscious, whatever.
Okay.
You believe it's random, isn't it? Things are random, they just come into existence, it is what it is. So how can you trust your mental faculties?
I can't trust them 100%, but through my experiences, I know
that's
I
where
can
his
trust.
point comes in.
I know I can trust
Only
them
you said your
to a
thoughts are
certain
certainty.
thoughts.
No, you said your thoughts were certainty.
No, I don't. I don't say that anything in the world I know for certain.
Is that the only
I
thing
know.
for certain? Are his thoughts?
Okay.
No, I don't know if my thoughts are true. I know they exist.
Oh, now you made a U-turn.
No, I know. That's what I meant.
Okay, so once again,
Because-
do you believe in your thoughts?
My
Are
thoughts
certain.
can be either true or false, but they exist.
So it's not certain. then.
Okay, but that's what I meant.
Oh, so they exist means that is the thing you're certain about.
But that's what I meant.
fair
Okay.
enough,
I'm sorry if
No,
I'm
no, that's
confusing you
fine.
with my English because
fine. Yeah, your English is
I
fine.
know I'm slumbering here a lot. Okay.
English is quite good.
Hmm?
Your English is quite good. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Thank you. So
So how do you trust your faculties when your faculties can be warped? You can
I
be...
trust them up to a certain extent. I trust them not 100%, not 0%. I trust them up to a certain percent because through my experiences, I know that when I feel like fire, it's hot. When I feel it again, I guess it will be hot again. So it will be hot again and my hand will burn. If I put my hand into the fire, because I did it once and I know it. So I trust my thoughts up to a certain
But there are
part
some
through my
people, they can put
experience.
their hands into the fire and nothing will happen.
Isn't that the example about the swans?
Or the yogis.
Yogis.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the swans, you know. If you have seen the swans.
Induction,
Yeah,
yeah.
induction.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what he's doing.
well, that's the problem of induction as well, which science falls into, and science actually can't, without doing a circular argument, it can't prove induction. For example, today, your headphones, you plug them in and electricity is working. How can you prove using science that tomorrow that same science is going to continue happening?
I don't know.
Yeah, you
I
can't.
can't.
Yeah, you can't.
That's what I mean. I can't.
Yeah.
I
So
100%
the
can't.
point of fair is this: for us to
You're
own-
100% true. I agree with that.
yeah. So for us to solely rely on empirical evidence, it's not logical. Yeah.
Okay, I have.
Let me just
why-
finish this one point.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Because if we rely on just empirical things, then even things that we can't prove, like dreams, like consciousness, like free will and stuff like that, life becomes an absurdity. So there are other fields as well. There's ontology, there's rationality, there's philosophy. So we as Muslims, testimony. So we as Muslims, as believers in God, we say don't just rely on empiricism. Take ontology, take rationality, take philosophy. Don't just rely on one aspect that you have admitted yourself is flawed and is limited. Science itself accepts that it can explain how, but it does not say that it can explain why. Science does not
I have
explain
a different perspective, which is you said, which the universe, from my limited, very limited consciousness and very limited logic. When I say limited, not mean personally, I mean as a human, the universe is absurd, and we maybe can't explain this. But I think the other metaphysical explanations. And by the way, when I say the explanation, I don't necessarily mean the prime mover, because that's the one argument which I find super fascinating and I have to meditate about, because that was really fascinating. It might...
reflection.
Reflection, yeah.
Which is,
That was what I
ironically,
meant.
this is what the Quran calls us to do.
Yes.
Allah
Yeah,
tells
one
us
is
to
fascinating,
ponder, to reflect, to think about. In fact, we'll speak afterwards as well. One of the things that we would recommend you to do, even when you go home, when you're in a room and you're by yourself, you raise your hands, and you, even as a non-Muslim, as a Muslim, as a crazy person, sane person, king, a pauper, you can raise your hands and you will have 100% connection with God. You just raise your hand and you ask Him, guide me, help me, assist me. And that's something that we're not going to say, oh, go through Muhammad, peace be upon him, go through Jesus, go through Buddha, go through this. No, you can raise your hand and you will have a one-to-one connection with God. But we'll come to this. But the point that we're trying to say is...
Can I segue?
Yeah, sure.
One thing here. Have you ever read any scriptures? Any religious books?
I've read?
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Have you read the Quran?
Not the Quran, the Hebrew Bible.
Just hold this, please.
That's the only one. Which
Hebrew Bible? Oh, you read Hebrew. You read
I
Hebrew?
read Hebrew, yes. Which
Okay.
is
So what is there nothing in the Hebrew Bible that convinced you that God exists?
No.
No. So what is the criteria you're looking for that will convince you?
Criteria. That's an interesting question. Again, I think you asked me this again, and my first thing is like some kind of empirical evidence. But if I will see empirical evidence of something like God, like some kind of revelation, the first thing I'll do is check myself into a mental hospital, because I will think my thoughts and my brain may be cheating me.
No, but why are you limiting? Why are you limiting your options to only empirical evidence? He has given you several other options, which are available to us as human beings. Like,
Philosophy,
for example,
rationality, ontology.
yeah, testimony, all these things. Why have you limited your what do you say?
Criteria.
Your criteria and your plan to seek something based only on empirical evidence?
I don't think it needs to be empirical evidence necessarily. But when I say like like logical arguments, I think, can help you. It's not really. I won't take it as certainty based on maybe on logical arguments because I'll always have this doubt. But mainly to a certain degree.
No, but even scientists, when they find something, they might assert that this is a fact. But even science keeps it open. Like in future, we have another theory which can invalidate this one.
That's exactly what I said. I said that maybe through not necessarily only through.
So even the scientific empirical evidence cannot be certain.
No, I agree.
So the only option that you have left yourself open, even that can be flawed.
No, but
So
why?
I mean-
But why you need to be certain 100%? Why you can't live in the knowledge that you can never know 100%, and that life might be absurd and the universe might be absurd because our consciousness and our logic are very limited, and the universe is absurd.
What do you mean absurd? I don't understand. What do you mean by absurd?
By absurd,
Do you think it exists? Do you think it?
No. That's not the point I'm talking about. When I take, well, no, what's,
I was getting worried there.
No, when I mean absurd,
Yeah.
I mean
Irrational.
That's the first one, not rational. Be,
But which part is irrational? Even from what you observe, what you know, what is your reality? What is that is irrational? I understand. Because the only thing for me from our conversation that we had that is irrational is for something to come into existence from nothing. To me, that is irrational. And to me, if anyone uses that criteria to understand their reality, then your base is on irrational understanding.
Again, I don't know the argument. Why do I need this metaphysical certainty rather than live in some kind of doubt? When I say, okay, there is many paths to knowledge, okay, but I don't think I can be sure about any of them. I will take the one which is most likely, which is based on empirical evidence. This is the only one. Wait a minute. I'll just finish my argument. I'll just take the empirical evidence seem to be working for me because I check my phone and it's working and it's based on science. It seems to be working for me, that thing about empirical evidence. Other things I'm not so sure about, so I will never live in the certainty that God or something concept like God might give me. I will never have this kind of certainty because I'm not certain about anything. But I will live according to empirical evidence in some amount of certainty, not 100%, not zero either, and be sufficient with that. Why I need this certainty?
I will tell you, and Islam provides that certainty. So what we do, the argument is a scaffolding argument, which is you prove that God exists, there's one God, there is revelation, Quran is that revelation, it fulfills that criteria, there are prophecies within it, there are qualities within that book that make it special compared to something else, it stands up to scrutiny. Then you go to prophethood, you look at the prophet that came, then you critique the prophet, you critique his life, you look at the prophecies that he made. So
what do you mean by critique?
Critique means if he says, if in history we say that there is critical analysis. So there is a prophecy, then you say, okay, then what was the nature of his prophecy compared to, say, the other prophecies, maybe of the Scientologists or the Mayans? Yeah, and then you compare them. What I'm trying to say is, when you compare all of the evidences that's presented by Islam, Islam is the only one that provides a cogent understanding and a holistic evidential analysis compared to anything else. And that's why I'm saying that don't get too hooked up on the beginning thing. You've said that the prime mover thing, the contingency argument, is something that resonates with you.
For now, I need to think about it later, but that was a fascinating argument, right? And for right now, if you will say to me to bet, I will maybe say yes. I will need to wonder about it.
Because that's something that kind of ticks all the boxes. That ticks the boxes of empiricism, of ontology, of philosophy, of rationality. It has to make sense for us to exist. Otherwise, we're living in a contradiction. Yeah,
But why we can't live in a contradiction? Because maybe the universe doesn't care about giving us the perfect answers. It doesn't care about giving us the perfect answers. I think it's...
The universe makes sense.
It makes sense until it doesn't.
Does the universe care?
Universe cares? I think of course not.
Does it have feelings?
Of course, I will not. Maybe some of us will say yes.
No, what do you say?
I say, The universe don't care about us.
So let's not bring into something you don't yourself believe in.
No, but so why we can't live in now? Why I need this certainty?
The universe is
because
not sentient.
every time we come into a crossroad, a logical crossroad, when some different paths to take, and you mentioned this earlier. Correct me if I'm wrong. We take the path that.
Inference is the best explanation.
Yes, but I think there is some amount of thinking about this and say, okay, well, we simply can't know in certainty. So maybe, and that's what I say as an agnostic, one option is an uncreated creator which is conscious. That's one option. I think there might be different options. But I'm not need to be sure about any one of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, listen to what I'm saying. Okay. On the one hand, you have a creator. Then, if we say that, okay, there's a creator, he sent a prophet, then there's criteria for that prophet as well. That needs to be analyzed. Then the revelation needs to be analyzed. I'm saying when you take the evidence holistically, Islam is the best explanation. And I would say the criteria of science is actually more stringent than science. For example, I'll tell you why. Because when you're at school and you're learning of your teacher, what's the criteria that your mother has put you in that school to benefit from that teacher?
Yeah. Well, you need to ask her, but
logically, common sense.
Good grades, good system, good manager.
Okay, so again, testimony based upon testimony. Yeah. So again, maybe she's seen a prospectus or she's seen a website. Yeah, and then on that website she might see certain reviews on there. She hasn't gone and checked.
Isn't the Quran a testimony?
We'll come to that. Don't worry. We'll definitely come to that.
Question.
Yeah, and we have answers. That's the point that we're trying to say. So the testimony there is based.
I don't think can you live without testimony? Of course, there will be some kind of testimony, some kind of uncertainty.
Your daily life would be impossible if you don't rely on testimony.
Yeah,
the fact that you go to a doctor.
Of course.
You don't ask him for his certificate.
Of course.
Or ask him which university he went to.
So I think we'll always use testimony, and I will always have some amount of uncertainty.
But Islamic testimony, I'm saying, is more stringent than the testimony that you rely on every single day. For example, we have something called a chain of transmission. Yeah, a chain of narration. Now, a chain of narration, for me to determine if I'm taking from somebody's testimony, I have to know their name, I have to know their family, I have to know their tribe, I have to know who they studied with, I have to know their memorization, and I have to know if they have a good relation, if they have a good reputation in the society as well. So these are minor conditions about whether a narrator, somebody that's giving you testimony, is reliable or not. If that person, in fact, we do it by three things: sanad, matan, tarikh. Yeah, the text, the chain, and the date. For example, if somebody...
Can you just repeat it, because that's fascinating?
Yeah, the chain, the sanad, which is the chain.
How do what's the word in Arabic? Because I want to remember it.
Yes, sanad,
really interesting.
Sanad, matan, and tarikh. So
tarikh, I know it from the word in Hebrew. It's the date, the time.
Matan is the text.
Matan is the text. Okay.
Yeah, and then the first thing was the chain, like critiquing the chain.
So what do you mean by critiquing the chain?
Yeah. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that don't kill women and children. Now, how do I know this? Yeah, we read it from Imam Malik. Imam Malik is reliable. We know his family, we know his tribe, we know if he was reliable or not, we know the time, we know all of that. He got it from Nafi. Nafi, we know everything about Nafi. You can get it from books, there's entire books written. Nafi got it from Abdullah bin Umar. Abdullah bin Umar has books written on him as well.
Sounds a bit like a game of, I don't know if you use the same words in English, the broken phone.
No.
How is it a broken phone?
You're talking Chinese whispers in English. But I'll tell you why it is not Chinese.
When you tell someone something, he tells another person, and by the time it gets to you, the message is completely different.
So it's Chinese.
The same thing can happen.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
But in that Chinese
why
whispers,
it's not like Chinese whispers.
yeah, in that chain of Chinese whispers, number one, you're whispering it. Yeah, and hadith are not whispered; they are proclaimed. They are open for criticism. Number two, there's not only one person in the chain. there are multiple people in the chain.
Multiple attestations from different regions, not only one region even.
Okay.
So when you have multiple attestations, you know, like if your uncle tells you, your grandmother tells you, your friends tell you, all of them, they tell you the same thing, that you are born in this place. Okay, wait a minute. You might not have some physical evidence, but they all are telling you this. Yes, are you going to doubt it now?
No, I'm
going to deny it?
But first of all, this is a completely different argument, yes? But let's look about this argument. Let's go with the argument about this kind of testimony. Let's
Let him
take it
finish
as
the son of
believable.
Abdullah bin Umar.
Yeah, then the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Yeah.
So we got it from Imam Malik got it from Nafi got it from Abdullah bin Umar, and Abdullah bin Umar got it from Muhammad, peace be upon him. That's how
Umar
it's
Umar is the first caliph, right?
No, Abdullah bin Umar. He's the son of the second caliph.
Son of the caliph.
Okay. Actually, I love Islamic history. It's fascinating. Okay.
Basically, you know what we do is, so it's not Chinese whispers. The reason for that is because we don't only know the person and the condition of being even part of the sanad. Yeah, the condition, that's hot air by the way. Just ignore. So the condition of the sanad is so stringent that if you are someone who is an elderly person and your memory is lapsing, then you don't if you happen to be in the chain of narration, that will be considered as one of the daif hadiths or one of the weak hadiths because of that criteria, that you were an old person and your memory was lapsing. So we have really stringent condition to be part of the sanad, of the chain of narration, of transmission, and then for it to be a chain of an authentic narration or a transmission. And we have something called ilm al-rijal, which is basically books written on every person within the chain. So we have the biographies. We don't only know their name and the first name and the last name and the parents' name, we know their history. We know the biography.
That's the question because
it's that stringent.
You don't know enough about.
In Chinese whispers, you don't need to know anyone.
No, just the question because I don't know about enough about Islamic belief. You talk about the Sunnah right now and the Hadiths in the Quran.
Yes. So the way it was translated.
Hadith.
No, both. Even for Quran.
Yeah, even
we have chain of transmission.
The Hadiths in the Quran by Islamic belief is that they came directly from God to Muhammad, right?
So the Quran came directly from Allah.
From Allah.
Then to the angel. The angel brought it to the Prophet Muhammad.
Okay.
Yes. The Hadith, similarly, the Prophet was inspired. The Prophet then said, the things which matter to Deen, that is inspired by Allah. The things which matter to the worldly things, that can be his own opinions as well. So we differentiate even between that. But like I said, everything that is.
Let's repeat that because I need to.
Okay, so the Sunnah.
The Sunnah. We're talking about the Sunnah right now. Okay.
We're talking about two things. One is the Quran and the Sunnah.
One is the Sunnah. I know.
So these are our primary sources in Islam. And for us, it's important to make sure that the source is authentic, because there are many people who claim that the Prophet ﷺ said X, Y, and Z. Just because they say that the Prophet ﷺ claimed, we don't take it at face value. We have to critically analyze it. That means our scholars, obviously.
Can you be 100%, not 100%, but can you be some amount of certainty, be sure about the authenticity of our stories when it took place over 1,000 years and 400 years? Don't you think that your method of testimony, which may be completely reliable when we talk about recent history, getting a little bit murky when we talk about Sadurekia of the late antiquity?
But that's what we're saying. When you're looking at the people in the chain, what would make that chain weak? The thing that would make that chain weak is if there is dubiousness as to whether that person existed, as to whether he was the teacher or the student, or where he was. When there is doubt, like you said, then that chain is labeled as weak. It's a weak narration.
That's what I know. There are other chapters in the Sunnah which are more or less reliable.
No. Your question is very good. In fact, the reason we have this stringent criteria is to ensure that what you're questioning doesn't arise for authentic narrations. The reason they have been categorized as authentic, as sahih, is because they satisfy the stringent criteria which you won't find anywhere else, to be honest with you.
Just another question. By Muslim belief, so the Sunnah was edited and only because you said the Quran came from God,
Yeah.
and how was the Sunnah written? It
No,
was my
no, both,
question.
they both were written. The Quran was also written by the companions. Yes, but the revelation of the Quran came
from
from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He himself didn't know how to read and write.
Okay,
Okay.
but when you talk about
Sunnah.
the testimonies, you talk about the Sunnah, right?
Yes.
The Sunnah.
Yes. So we have the chain of narration for the Sunnah, and we have the chain of transmission for the Quran.
But
Because even-
can you trust 100% on about this chain?
But that's what I'm saying.
Even
of-
if you know about who is the teacher, who is the student, okay? We can know lots of things about Socrates from what Plato said, okay? He may change a lot of some things about what Socrates said. We can't be 100%, but everything Plato said about Socrates is 100% true. Same thing maybe in the chain.
Yeah. So in the Quran we have a falsification test. That if this Quran is from anyone other than Allah, yes, you will have many contradictions in it. Number one. Number two, another falsification test is bring a chapter like it. And you know what is the smallest chapter in the Quran? It has only 3 verses.
No.
Surah Al-Kawthar. It has only
the
3.
Quran is come from the shortest to the longest
No, there's no what do you say?
chronologically.
Chronological order in terms of the time it was revealed, in terms of the chapter size, in terms of the number of words in the surah. Okay, but the Prophet ﷺ was instructed again by Allah to tell his companions which ayah goes, because it was revealed over a period of 23 years. It didn't come down in one night. The Quran was revealed over a period of 23 years. So when a certain incident happened,
That's why I
an
have
ayah
like
would come
dates in my mind correctly. On which date did the Prophet died?
632.
632.
he was born in 570.
570. That's
He lived for 63 years. So coming back to the original point, you were talking about testimony and you said life becomes absurd when you don't follow testimony. And then the criteria that you adopted was, just hearing something or seeing something on a website or somebody saying something, part of an organization, is enough for your parent to send you to a school and for you to learn from that person. What we're saying is, merely knowing that they have studied somewhere is not enough. We need to know more information about that person, and that information needs to be something that's accessible. It needs to be something that can get from multiple sources. Anybody at any time should be able to dip in there and go, who's the narrator in the middle there? Tell me about that person. Who is their tribe? Were they there? And I'm sorry, but the Islamic criteria for testimony is something that's unmatched. There is no other criteria that even comes close to what Islam offers, and that's why. And that's why, when it comes to the hadith, Muslims are the only ones that have sayings that can be critiqued. Hadith,
the Sunnah?
yeah,
Okay,
hadith, Sunnah. You can use them interchangeably. So.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. The books called the Sunnah, the different chapters called the Hadiths.
No, the chapters are called surah
Okay.
of the Quran. The hadith is again, it has its own books like Bukhari, Muslim.
Different books.
Yeah, so these are the, they are the ones who collected it. They didn't write it, like initially. They collected all the hadith.
And it's stories about the Prophet's life, right?
Yeah, and in Islam it's mostly based on memorization. So
And
the
Hadith,
Quran,
you said it means sayings?
the sayings and narrations.
Yeah, so hadith are sayings of the Prophet.
And the actions. Yeah.
One saying is called one hadith. One narration is called one hadith.
So you can go home and the chain that I said, you can say, he said Imam Malik's Muwatta. Imam Malik said that in his Muwatta. You can open that book and you can find that hadith. You can say, he said, that comes from Nafi. That will be there. Abdullah bin Umar. You can check everyone in that chain. They will have books written individually and their dates can be attested and matched. So the point that I'm trying to say is the criteria that's offered is unmatched. Now this is just the sayings. When we now look at the Quran, there's 3 ways in which the Quran is preserved, and that's something.
This is a free Quran for you if you want to accept it.
It's actually a free Quran.
It's in English. That's all.
English.
We don't have Hebrew ones.
Is it actually the Quran itself, or it's an interpretation?
No, the Quran is always in Arabic. This is the interpretation
of
the Quran.
Okay, so that's what for
It's
me
in
to
English.
understand. It's in English, and It's
Unless
the
you can-
Quran
unless you can
itself.
read Arabic.
No, because it says the meaning of the Quran. Because if it's in English, you can say it's actually the Quran itself. Because
Yes,
the Quran
yes.
itself has to be always in Arabic, right?
Yes.
The original
That's interesting,
Quran,
actually.
the original Quran, the only thing that we can call the Quran is in Arabic. That's why it's called the meaning of the Quran.
That's why it's called the meaning of
Yes.
the Quran. Yes, because just talking, we said it's actually like having the Quran in English. Be really interesting.
I know, Fair, let me tell you something. Out of everybody in the park, yeah, somebody that follows an ancient, you said Abrahamic religion, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, or Hindus, no one can say that they have script, that they have the book that dates back to the time that the founder or the person to whom it was revealed.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I'll take it as true.
So
You know the Torah?
Historically, what you're saying now is the most true
So
about the
if I were to-
religion.
he said not only historically, even in terms of the timing. So if I were,
Timing, you're right.
if I were to ask you, do you have any remnant of the Torah from the time of Moses?
No, but the answer will be 100% no. And the same in
Do you
Christianity.
know what is the
first
earliest?
gospel was written more than 40 years after Jesus died, and I know in Islam
No,
it's,
not 40, much more.
I think the gospel.
later,
Yeah, but
Do you know the earliest extant Torah manuscripts you have?
Oh, it's hundreds of years later.
No, 1,000. More than 1,000 years. So 1,200 years.
The Torah itself, it's
Yeah.
like
The Dead
in
Sea
the Bronze
Scrolls.
Age, and it was written
You know
much
the
later.
The Dead Sea
Yeah.
Scrolls, they are like 1,200 years after Moses.
wow.
Yeah,
So you have a gap of more than a millennia.
yeah, you're right.
Now, you remember those Chinese whispers you mentioned earlier?
Oh,
Now just try to
you
put,
know what?
trust me, you will
You
not
won't
come
find me
close.
arguing with you about that.
Alhamdulillah.
I agree.
He's thrown the towel in already.
No,
So the Quran is preserved in three ways. Number one, through manuscript evidence, which you've said that, I mean, the oldest manuscript that we have is actually in this country, University of Birmingham. So we have manuscript evidence. Number two, it's memorized. So the Quran is the only book that is mass memorized. Every household has some connection with some person that's memorized the Quran.
So we have at least 15 million people today who have memorized the Quran. At least.
Hey, just a question. Is the
And the
education-
youngest is a 6-year-old in Palestine that's memorized the Quran.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Really phenomenal.
In your country.
That's really cool. Like a 6-year-old.
Yes,
already,
yes.
like,
and even
yeah,
younger,
yes.
you know, even younger.
Maybe I
So
can't remember. that.
So, you can imagine, he must have started learning when he was maybe 5 or 4 even.
And now
We are telling you when
They
he finished.
probably read it to him when he was a baby.
No.
No, this
Look,
is-
look. Allah says in the Quran that He makes it easier for us to learn it.
Okay, but
Yeah?
I have.
No. This is very good. Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me, you're gonna like this.
I will
one.
trust
You're gonna like this one.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a juicy one.
Alright.
It's a juicy one.
I
Now
hope I like it.
The Quran is like minimum like 9,000 lines depending on the print, yeah, on how big it is, yeah. So the Quran is like 9 to 11,000 lines, and it's memorized by a 6-year-old. In 1997, there was a poll in the Sunday Times where they went to vicars and asked them from memory to just say the 10 commandments.
Most of people could.
2 out of 3 couldn't do it. But here, the Quran is something which is mass memorized. In fact, when you go to a Muslim, you say, have you seen a Hafiz? They say, yes. Yeah, Hafiz. It's standard. Hafiz is somebody who's memorized the Quran. So again, that's why I'm saying these are old scaffolding.
And most of these Hafiz, those people that memorize the Quran, their first language is not even Arabic.
Wow.
In fact,
Most Muslims.
yeah,
are not
most
Arabic.
Muslims are not Arabs, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest Muslim country in the world is Indonesia.
Yeah. So Arabs are maybe less than 20%.
No, yeah.
And the
It's
third
it's
way,
also well known fact.
and the third way the Quran has been preserved is through the living language, which is Arabic. Let's
The
look
Quran
at
is
the
the
old.
reason Arabic is the language of the entire Middle East.
No, even now, I think Arabic fluctuates between number 4 and number 5. It's the 4th or 5th most spoken language on the planet. The Old Testament is written in Hebrew. Hebrew is not a common language. The New Testament actually.
It's a revived dual language. There is a big difference.
Yeah, actually, Jesus spoke Aramaic. No one speaks
Aramaic or even different Greek languages.
What do you speak in Israel? Is it Yiddish?
לא, it's
not
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
No, it's Hebrew. אני מדבר עברית, אבל it's Hebrew, but it's called.
But what is more common, Yiddish or?
No, Hebrew. Hebrew is the most.
Sorry?
It is talked only about
It's not spoken at all.
only among Orthodox. Yeah. I had a question. How do people memorize the Qurans? Are these part of the education of imams, or are these different religious title?
No, no.
Anybody can memorize the Quran.
So normally Muslims, they send their children to the Arabic school, where they teach them Arabic before they even start their primary school. This is normally the culture in most Islamic, not even, like I said, Islamic countries, Muslim countries, but even the non-Muslim countries where there are Muslim parents. So they make it a habit to send their children to school as soon as they start speaking to learn. So they start with learning certain supplications, certain du'as. Yes, then even the prayers at home, they teach them, even though it's not mandatory for them, they teach them for a very young age. So this is something which is the culture and tradition amongst the Muslims, to impart the knowledge of the Quran to them from a very early age. And I think it's pretty much same in the Orthodox Jewish.
Yeah.
Because I remember I used to stay in Dalston before, and they had like a synagogue and a mosque next door to each other.
Oh.
So every morning you would see the Muslim children going to the madrasa and the Jewish children going to the synagogue.
Nice.
Every single morning you see this scene, and it was beautiful, So it just shows that because they're cousins, aren't they? The Jews and the Muslims, the Arabs specifically. So this is something that is pretty much similar tradition.
So then when you look at the three main ways that the Quran is preserved, logically, if God has sent a book, then that book, number one, has to be accessible to everybody. It has to be something that actually exists. Like you can't say, yeah, God sent a book, but he couldn't look after it, he couldn't preserve it. And somebody gives us the meaning, like you said, how do we know if it's that book? Yeah, how do we know somebody else hasn't said something or added or taken something away? Which is unfortunately and sadly, you can take the New International Version of the Bible, King James Version, you will see entire paragraphs missing.
Oh, there are tons of mistranslations. You read the same passage in Hebrew and in English, and you say, oh, that's not the same. Of course.
Yeah, one Bible is 66 books, one's 73 books.
There are different
84
books.
Yeah, 84 books.
There are Jewish books, I learned it recently, who are holy to Christians but not holy to Jews, and have nothing to do with Jesus. Some weird things like that. Yeah.
But even in the Quran, whether it's holy to Jesus, whether it's to Moses, the Quran appreciates every single prophet that came.
Can I ask
it appreciates
Moses.
Moses.
Which prophets are holy to Islam, or it is too long of a
Every
list?
single one of them.
Every single one of them.
There are approximately 124,000 that have come, approximately.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't know the exact amount. Some have been mentioned in the Quran, some have been mentioned in the Hadith, and Moses is one of them, Jesus is one of them.
Yeah, I know.
That's why...
You know why we don't discriminate? Because we believe they are all Muslims.
Yes, it makes sense.
Do you know why we say they are all Muslims? Even the Jewish prophets, which you think are Jewish, we say they are Muslim. We say Abraham was a Muslim. We say Moses was a Muslim. We say Jesus was a Muslim.
It's even before the existence of a Quran.
You see, this is...
Because you believe the Quran is eternal and...
No, people think that Islam came only 1400 years ago. We believe Islam has been there before Adam even. Islam, you know what Islam means? It means submission to one true God. Did all these prophets submit to the one true God? There you go. So by definition, they are Muslim. Muslim means one who submits to the one true God. And Islam is what these people are called collectively. Their religion is Islam, submission to the one true God.
When you look at Jewish people, they don't accept Jesus, that he came. When you look at Christian people, they don't accept the Prophet Muhammad. But when you look at Muslims, they accept Moses and they accept Jesus. They accept all of the prophets.
We don't discriminate.
In fact, I had the good fortune of going to Palestine, and Prophet David, he's actually in the...
Oh, David is a prophet already?
Yeah, I visited. In fact, Prophet David is actually in the Israeli quarters, and Prophet Abraham is in the Palestinian quarters. So some people, unfortunately, they can't go, but because we went from there, we as Muslims, we went there, we could see, Jewish people, they were reading their books and everything, but we value all the prophets. Why? Because like Hashim said, they all came with the same message, belief in one God. And that's why it comes down to affair, that rationally, logically, when you're sitting down by yourself and there's no camera, there's no people, you don't believe stuff like, randomly I will cross the road and a tree will randomly float and come in the middle of the road and get changed into a koala bear that's going to start tap dancing on the road. It doesn't, it doesn't happen. But if you start dealing with philosophy, you can't say it can't happen. You have to say it's possible, it can happen, maybe in one of the existences, maybe in another multiverse. But that's what I'm saying. Oh, fair. This is the blessing of Islam. This is the blessing of what Allah has given us, what God has given us. He's given us rationality. He's given us a brain. He's given us intellect. He's given us morality. You, as a person that doesn't believe in God, Ofer, and I challenge you on this, and you're more than welcome to give me your best argument. You cannot prove to me convincingly what is right and what is wrong. You simply can't do that.
I agree with you. You can't do that.
And that's the problem, Ofer. And that's what we fear. It leads to nihilism. Atheism leads to capitalism, leads to nihilism. A neurosurgeon could be, he's practicing to be a neurosurgeon. May Allah bless him. So when he is,
good luck.
when
I'm a neuroscience though, but
that's his aim. Yeah, that's why he's fascinated. So with him, if he is now saving people, and their lives, and
You might be diagnosed, isn't it? See if you're in touch with the reality.
I'm just trying to argue. What you made of me?
Just kidding, just kidding.
It's okay.
We trust you. We accept your testimony.
yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, look, we don't want to take too much of your time, but really appreciate you giving us.
Oh, it was fascinating. I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, we enjoyed it as well.
We might agree to disagree, but I will promise you one thing. I'm actually really fascinated by Islam and the Quran. I think it's really interesting. Both historically, I love the history of the Muslim world, and I will actually read it. I'm promising you.
No, I'm so glad that you don't have any preconceived prejudices, because there are many people that we might meet from Israel or from Hindus or from Christians, or they might be having some baggage about the term Muslim, and as soon as they say Muslim, they have this prejudice. So I'm really glad that you are really sincere and
Everyone who
open-minded.
learns history knows that for most of history, the most moderate and accepting religion was Islam.
Alhamdulillah.
That's what I see.
Alhamdulillah.
Empirically, from learning history,
Oh,
from
fair.
testimony.
Good.
Yeah, very good. Ofer, just to finish that last point, because I think it
Yes.
was important, that with nihilism, somebody that's spending their time doing neurosurgery and saving people's lives is the same as somebody sitting at home and drawing circles all day. There is no difference in nihilism. You can't say one is good, one is bad. So just because when that thing happened, I just lost my train of thought. So think about this, because the thing of fear is when things will actually happen in your life, you will have to think about these things, and hopefully you're more than welcome to come back to us, and you have the Quran as well, and without any prior baggage and preconceived notions, open it up, read it. You don't need anybody to take you to God. Your relationship with God is He's waiting. Your relationship is there. You can even go home today.
That's some kind of unique to Islam, I have to say.
And that's what we say. You don't have to even tell us. You don't have to ask us. You don't have to ever see us again. We're so confident that when you ask God and you say, look, I'm sincere, I need your help, I need your guidance, please help me. I don't want to be misguided, I promise you. I put my life on the line. I can put my life on the line, and I will tell you, for a fact, there's no way God will just leave you.
Absolutely. For us, look, we only convey the message. We believe that guidance is always from the Almighty. Yes? So you call upon Him, yes, with sincerity, and He will respond to you. And this is our belief,
And that's another chain of evidence, experiential.
Yes.
Wow.
But it's
Guys, that's
all...
something I will just need to try myself.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll check
Which
that
you-
empirically.
You
All
mentioned
of them.
All of them.
Empirically, rationally, philosophically, ontologically, testamentologically.
Yes.
All of them.
All the ologies. Yes.
Well,
So thank you very much for your
I
time.
really like to.
And,
I love talking to you.
That was
It was
fantastic.
fascinating.
So are you guys here as just visiting, or
No, just visiting.
okay?
Just visiting.
You happen to be at Speaker's Corner on the right day.
Yeah, this was fascinating. I really
Alhamdulillah,
enjoyed talking
maybe
to you
there's
guys.
some-
This was great.
We pray
Thank
to
you.
Allah to
Just
be there.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.